Mrs. Peak, would you please call us out of our closed session?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The council has reconvened from closed session during which it discussed items on the agenda, closed session agenda. Item number 2, pending litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9 sub D sub 1, San Marcos versus Gringo Industries and Hector Rubio, San Diego Superior Court case, North County Division, number 37-2023-00006579. The City Council engaged in discussion with the City Attorney and provided direction with respect to the matter. And no further action was taken. On item number 3, conference with real property negotiators, Government Code Section 54956.8. City Council conferred with the city negotiators, city manager, regarding property identified in the closed session agenda, generally located at Grand Avenue and Bent. Negotiating party AOA San Marcos LLC. The City Council discussed a matter, provided direction to staff with respect to negotiations, and no further reportable action was taken. In the event that an agreement is reached, those documents will be available pursuant to the Public Records Act when those discussions are concluded. And that concludes the closed session report.
Okay, with that, the closed session is now adjourned, and we will be going right into our new meeting for a regular City Council meeting for March 12th, 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I have the invocation this evening. God, we ask your blessings on those who have been called to lead this community in which we live, play, and work. Guide us peacefully through debate. Remind us that we are not only leaders, but also servants, and that is our responsibility and ours to serve the common good of all. Grant us the wisdom and courage to know and do what is good, right, and true. May we speak out when it is time to speak out and listen patiently and receptively when it is time to listen. May we always be guided by the spirit of community, by the spirit of justice, and by the spirit of love. Amen. Okay. Could we have roll call, please, Mr. Scott?
Councilmember Musgrove.
Here.
Councilmember Nunez.
Present.
Councilmember Sinella.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Jenkins.
Here.
And Mayor Jones.
Here. Okay, we will be moving on. We have a few presentations this evening. If the council could join me in the front, please. Okay, the first thing that we have is our Smile Award. Do we have up there the Rassets? If you could come down, please. Let's give them a hand. If you've never been to our... Hello, Greg and Heidi. Hello. I have a few things to say about these two. They have been such wonderful leaders of our Veterans Day event. If you've never actually been there, it really is beautiful. And don't cry on us. Don't do it. I see it coming. Okay, well, she might. Anyway, it's such a privilege to present the 2024 First Smile Award to Greg and Heidi Rassett for serving San Marcos by hosting the Veterans Day ceremony at our own Helen Booger Memorial Park every year. Heidi and Greg served in the military for 25 years. Once retired, they knew they wanted to spend time volunteering within the community. After moving to San Marcos in 2006, they learned that there were over 600 veterans laid to rest in the San Marcos Cemetery. In 2007, their 14-year-old son volunteered to build the kiosk for the new San Marcos Veterans Park. Heidi and Greg's spirit of service was inspired by their son and began by joining the Helen Booger Memorial Park Committee. In this role, they were pivotal in the development of the Wall of Remembrance at the park. One of their first projects on the committee was to organize and host a Veterans Day ceremony to commemorate all of the brave individuals who gave their lives for our country's freedom and to educate the youth of how and share the stories of our veterans. In 2011, Heidi and Greg hosted the first ceremony at Helen Booger Memorial Park. The event was a major success and was immediately met with donations and support from local organizations and community members. And as you can see in some of the pictures, it really is a beautiful event. Over the years, it's grown, hosting over 300 guests to honor San Marcos's veterans. With an increase in event attendance, Heidi and Greg began working with the city to organize a ceremony each year to honor our veterans as a unit. On behalf of the city, thank you for everything that you have given and all of the time and the sharing of your treasure, and we just thank you so much. And I have this for you, and would you like to say something this evening? I think Greg, because I feel like Heidi might just start the waterworks, which we don't want you to do, but we love you. If you'd like to say a few words, we would love to hear from you.
I just want to say it has always been our pleasure to do the Veterans Day and to thank the community almost 20 years ago to welcome us here. We were outsiders, you welcomed us, and it truly is our pleasure. We get so much out of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to have a quick thank you to the city. Michelle Bender, Mayor, all the city staff, they're awesome. They work closely with us, and there's enough enthusiasm out of your group that matches ours, and it's a beautiful ceremony. 11 November, this fall, Helen Booger Memorial Park, be there.
What time? I'm giving you a moment.
11? 2.
11.
11.
11, yes.
Your lead
Time.
coordinator is sitting right there, and I don't want to sidestep her.
I'm just trying to help you out there.
Thank you, thank you. 11 o'clock, Jennifer.
All right, we are going to take a quick picture. Thank you so much. Really
thank
appreciate
you.
you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you so much. Well, we are the best city ever. This way, you get in the right here. Here, you get. I feel like you should be next to Greg. There you go.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you guys. And just so you know, it is the greatest city. It's not because of us, it's because of everyone that has served previously to us too. We've had a lot of great leadership in our 61 years. Okay, now. Okay, now we have another presentation. It's the Shazebo Certificate of Recognition, and Robin Dubroy, Director of Operations from Shazebo Shade Sales, will be here. Is she? Oh, there you are. She is the P&R Director. Oh, and P&R Director Mark Olson will say a few words of gratitude. Are you here, Mark? Oh, there he is. Okay, sorry, I didn't see you. I saw some movement over here. Okay, so I'm going to read this real quick. So the San Marcos City Council does hereby present Shazebo with an honorable certificate of recognition for your generous contribution to the city of San Marcos. With heartfelt gratitude, we acknowledge the donation of the shade structure for Jack's Pond Park, Nature Park. There it is. Oh, there it is. Beautiful. Which it really needed it because it can get hot over there. That's over by my house in my neck of the woods. Anyway, their support and commitment does make a profound impact on our camp program. Your donation of the shade structure, valued at $15,000, thank you very much, will provide essential relief during the hot summer days, ensuring all campers can enjoy the activities comfortably in the shade. This accomplishment has been long awaited, and Shazebo's dedication has made it a reality. Your generosity exemplifies our own San Marcos spirit of service. Anyway, thank you so much. Give give this to you, and then you can say a few words.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Robin and all the folks at Shazibo, I can really take no credit, having only been here a few weeks, but on my second day on the job, the staff was ecstatic when they announced that we would be getting this shade structure. And although I've not been there, I have put up numerous pop-up canopies, and so I'm happy that the staff will not have to do that any longer. But if you noticed in the previous slide, the kids tucked up against the wall, except for a few vitamin D worshipers that were out there braving the sun. But it will be wonderful. We're so grateful for the program participants and for the support of the community and for people like Shazibo and the staff. So thank you, Robin, for the contribution. It will impact hundreds and hundreds of children and youth in our community. So thank you very much.
All right. Oh, we do? Cue it.
One, two, three. Thank you.
So is this the transformation? Yes. Did you help with that up, Robin? I did. You did? Okay, well, that's cool. Fun. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, does everyone know what this month is? It's Women's History Month. Come on. We have Girls on the Run that is here today with us to accept this. Oh, we even have a little young one. I love it. So, we are going to present this to you. Come on over here, sweetie. With an honorable certificate of recognition for their outstanding commitment to encouraging and inspiring young girls in San Diego County. Girls on the Run embodies the spirit of empowerment, reaching girls at a crucial age to fortify their confidence through a unique blend of physical and emotional health initiatives, nurturing their minds and bodies alike. Each girl emerges from this program stronger and more confident, equipped with the tools to navigate life's challenges and resilience and grace. With deep gratitude, we commend you for your unwavering dedication to build a healthier, more confident generation of young women. So I'm assuming this is your daughter? It is. So are you excited, Mom's here today to get this? I'm going to hand this to you, and then I'm going to let your mom say a couple of words, if that's okay with you. Yeah?
Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome.
We're so happy to be here. Girls on the Run San Diego promotes physical and emotional, mental health, growth of young women in our community, and we have served girls in San Marcos, and we look forward to serving more students in the future. The biggest thing about Girls on the Run is using our star power to serve others and also to serve ourselves and to meet our own needs. So on this time when we're recognizing International Women, we just really appreciate this recognition by the city and honoring Girls on the Run. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, one, two, three. Keep smiling. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you my pen, so let me just find it real quick. I'll do it right here so it doesn't flip through. There we go. Okay, you're very welcome. Thank you. One last thing, since we do have 3 women now on our city council, I have a proclamation for International Women's Day, and I do actually. This is just something that is just popping into my head. But we have former council member Pia Harris-Ebert. She was also vice mayor. Can you come and take this from me? I would love to have you up here. Now, she is actually the first woman that was ever elected to our San Marcos City Council. I know you're not expecting this, but come up here with me. Come up here with me. I'm sorry, I'm really putting you, you're going to come right here by me, and I'm going to read this to you. I feel like I should have someone to read it to, but you broke the glass ceiling for us, Pia, so it needs to be recognized. I know, I'm sorry, I put you on the spot.
No, you're not sorry. I'm very thankful. Thank you.
Okay, well, anyway, the San Marcos City Council hereby recognizes International Women's Day. Women everywhere are necessary and vital and should always be an equal and critical voice in all aspects of local, national, and international development. Women are sometimes still considered and treated as second-class citizens. Therefore, it is crucial that all women have access to education, justice, citizenship, work, and human rights, and that feminism is simply considered another word for equality. In 1920, women could vote for the first time. Just 50 years ago, in 1974, for the very first time, women could get credit cards in their own names. Not until 1981 did the U.S. Supreme Court have a female justice. That is 191 years after its first assembly. Such achievements celebrate the women of the past who have all vocalized, campaigned, and made a path for the women for the present and the future, like yourself, Pia. International Women's Day has been declared to honor all women and serve as a reminder of the growth that has happened and the growth that is still to come, the learning and the celebrating that is ongoing, and that achieving equality for women is not a threat, but rather a necessity. Therefore, the San Marcos City Council does hereby proclaim March 8th, which was Friday, as International Women's Day, and I would be honored if you would accept this for us.
Well, thank you so
And
much.
come and take a picture.
Oh, I'd love that. I never had a picture with you.
Sorry. I really did put her on the spot. I just saw you. So come on over.
Yeah, okay.
Since there are three of us now on the city council.
This was not.
I know, I'm sorry we had to put you on the spot. There you were.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
All right, now we will get on to our next presentation. And by the way, we do have our first woman city manager as well, Michelle Bender, with us this evening. Okay, next up we have our next presentation, which is a potential local funding measure presentation.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight is part of a larger discussion we've been having about the city's long-term financial health. And as you know, over the past several years, the city's revenues have not kept pace with the cost of providing the high quality of services that the residents have come to expect. This is not something unique to San Marcos. Cities throughout California are facing similar challenges. And while the problem isn't unique, San Marcos has always stood out from other cities in the way we approach managing our city. First of all, the City Council has consistently made efficiency and fiscal health a top priority. We pride ourselves in operating like an efficient business rather than a government agency. We keep things lean, and our staff is very entrepreneurial in how they approach our work. We've slimmed down even more in the past few years, and now we're at the point where there is no more room to cut if we want San Marcos to be a clean, safe place to live. Given council direction, staff has begun to explore potential sales tax measure. Tonight, we're going to hear what San Marcos voters thought about the idea, as well as some feedback about what's most important to them. There are no decisions that need to be made today. Instead, this is one of the many data points we'll be sharing as we head into the new fiscal year. Staff will be back in April with a draft budget and an update on our overall financial management strategy, including what's already been implemented and what additional actions can be taken to help ensure the city's long-term financial health. In other words, today's presentation is part of the puzzle that we talked about. There are a lot of pieces, and ultimately, staff will ask you to choose how to fit those pieces together so that San Marcos can remain a great city long into the future. So with that background, I would like to introduce Tim McClarney from North Star calling it North Star Consulting. That's our organizational development consultant from True North Research to provide us with a presentation of the sales tax polling results. Thank you.
All right,
Tim.
thank you, Michelle. And good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm Dr. Tim McClarney, president of True North Research. We are a firm that over the last 20 years has specialized in working with cities and other types of public agencies around the state in using surveys to help them develop a statistically reliable understanding of the communities and the customers that they serve. To date, my business partner and I have worked on over 1,300 research studies for public agencies, and about half of the work that we're doing these days is what we call revenue measure feasibility studies, like the type of study that we'll be talking about tonight, where the goal is to understand if it's feasible for a city to move forward with a revenue measure, for example, and if it is feasible, to help them understand how might they go about structuring that measure in a way that it's consistent with the type of measure that their community is interested in supporting. Happy to say that we've helped our clients have a lot of success over the years. To date, we've helped raise about $35 billion statewide in terms of local revenue measures, and our track record is 95%. What I mean by that is when our research has indicated that a measure is feasible and we've made recommendations to a client to go ahead and move forward with their measure on the ballot, 95% of those measures have been successful. I mention that mainly because as I go through tonight's presentation, I'll probably make some comments about how the results we're seeing here in San Marcos compared to what you normally see in other types of communities when they're considering these types of measures. And so I wanted you to have a sense from the experience base from which I'd be speaking. And I also welcome questions from council as I go or at the end, whichever is your preference. Okay, so before we get into the results, it's helpful to take a moment to review the purpose of the study, or why cities go about doing this type of research, as well as the methodology or how we went about conducting the study. In terms of the purpose of the study, being a revenue measure feasibility study, it really boils down to the 3 bullets that you see here on this slide. The first is to answer that basic question of, is it feasible? And what I mean by that is if you as a council were to choose to place a measure on an upcoming ballot, does it have a reasonable chance of success, right? Answer to that question isn't always yes. Sometimes we do this research, and when you get the numbers back, there's really no clear path to get you from where you are today to where you need to be viable on election day. And if that's the case, I'll be the first person to tell you that. I think the last thing that council would want, or the administration would want, or the community would want, would to be invest in this kind of effort if you don't have a reasonable chance of success. When we do see that there's a path to success, that second bullet kicks in gear, which is understand how might you go about structuring this measure in a way that it's consistent with the type of measure that your community is interested in supporting. There's a lot of components to a revenue measure. There's what's the rate or the price tag going to be? How are you proposing to spend the money? What sort of accountability provisions are built in? What election dates are you considering? Et cetera, et cetera. These are all questions that ultimately have to be decided before you place a measure on the ballot, and the survey can help guide that. And then lastly, that final bullet, the survey is an opportunity for us to understand how information sort of shapes voters' opinions about your proposal. I am a big believer that if a public agency is going to take the step of putting a measure on the ballot and asking voters to make that decision, it's really incumbent upon that public agency to inform voters about the decision you're asking them to make. You're not advocating up or down as a public agency with public dollars, but you are giving voters the basic information that they need to come to their own well-informed decision with respect to the proposal. Onto the methodology. In terms of the methodology, when you're doing a revenue measure feasibility study like this, the first question you want to be thinking about is what election might this measure be on? Different elections have different turnouts, and as you expand or shrink turnout, you often get a somewhat different mix and different profile of voters in your community. In this case, we were looking at that high turnout November presidential general election that's coming up this year, and so we looked at the voter file for the city of San Marcos. We identified all voters who are what we call likely November voters. These are voters who, based on when they registered to vote in the city, what elections they've participated in since that point, as well as some other demographics, we expect are actually going to cast ballots in this upcoming November election. Once we identified that universe of voters, we use a process called stratified and clustered random sampling. I can get into the details of that if you like, but suffice to say for now that what it does is it guarantees us that at the end of our data collection process, we have a sample that is in fact representative of that likely November universe on all the dimensions that we know drive how voters tend to vote on these types of measures. So things like partisanship, household party type, age, gender, where they live within the city. Our sample matches the profile of the likely November universe here in San Marcos. Once we'd selected our sample, we used 3 different recruiting methods: email, text, and telephone. Within both the email and the text invitations, there were unique hyperlinks built into those invitations so that only those voters who were randomly selected, who received an invitation, could participate in the study, and they could do so one time only. You can't forward your invitation on to your 10 best friends and tell them how to take the survey. It doesn't work like that in our system. And so we're protecting the integrity of the survey throughout. Voters had the option of taking this either online or by telephone, whichever was their preference, and as well as in English or Spanish, whichever was their preference. We had actually set out to do 500 completed interviews as part of this study because that allows us to better than meet the academic standard for statistical reliability, which is plus or minus 5% margin of error at the 95% confidence interval. We walked back in the door with 814. So we had a stronger response to this survey than we were sort of anticipating. We find that happens sometimes when certain communities and cities. And so that was just bonus, no extra charge to the city, but it does allow us, because we have a larger sample size, to have a smaller margin of error associated with the survey than we otherwise would have, and that is plus or minus 3.4% at the 95% confidence level. What that means is we can be 95% confident that the results we'll talk about tonight are within 3.4% of what we would have found had we spoken with all of your roughly 48,000 likely November voters in the city. So that's a bit about the methodology. And I mentioned that stratified and clustered random sampling process, which ensures that our sample matches the profile of your likely November universe. This table just sort of reinforces that fact. What you see here is in the middle column, that is the distribution of likely voters within the city of San Marcos based on age, partisanship, household party type, whether they're a homeowner or not, as well as council district. And the right column there is the distribution of our sample. And you can see how closely our sample aligns to the profile of that likely November universe. Not shown in here, by the way, is Spanish language. We had about 6% of the interviews were conducted to Spanish. That's actually a little higher than what the voter file shows for the community. It shows it about a 4% probable Spanish, and only 3% of your likely November voters actually requested in-language Spanish materials. And so we did a little stronger on the Spanish language ballots as well. Okay, so enough of the warm-up slides. We are into the results here. And when we start the study, we like to have a few warm-up questions, and the first of which you see here was we asked voters just to tell us how they'd rate the overall quality of life in the city of San Marcos. Would they say it's excellent, good, fair, poor, or very poor? Overall, you had 83% of respondents rate the quality of life as excellent or good. About 16% mentioned fair, and you have just 2% who mentioned poor or very poor. I get to ask these types of questions for a lot of communities around the state. This is a really, really solid number. I think the highest that you'll see in this number is sort of low 90s. And, I've seen plenty of communities where this is in the 40s. And so 83% is a really solid number. Following that, we had an open-ended question where we asked them if the city government could change one thing to make San Marcos a better place to live now and in the future, what change would you like to see? By open-ended, what I mean is we didn't show them this list and say, pick one. We let them tell us in their own words and recorded verbatim what it is they responded in terms of what changes they'd like to see. We then went back and reviewed those verbatim responses and grouped them into the categories you see here. So it's a good gauge of sort of what's top of mind for residents. So the number one response to this, 21% mentioned reducing traffic congestion. That's the one change they'd most like to see. About 15% mentioned limiting growth and development. Another 12% weren't sure, nothing really came to mind. And then improving infrastructure and roads, increasing public safety on down. So again, kind of gives you a good understanding of what's top of mind for your residents. It doesn't mean that, for example, only 4% of people care about an issue. It's just what's the number one thing that came to their mind when asked the question. We also took the opportunity to ask residents whether, generally speaking, they are satisfied or dissatisfied with the job the city of San Marcos is doing to provide city services. Because we're asking them to speak about the city's performance overall, right? We're not referencing police or streets and roads or parks and rec. It can be considered sort of an overall performance rating for the city. And you can see here that we had 83% of the respondents we spoke with say that they were satisfied with the city's overall efforts to provide municipal services. About 11% were dissatisfied and the rest unsure. Here again, these are really solid numbers. They're on the upper end of the scale of what we tend to see. In today's environment, I'm seeing high 80s is about as high as it gets. And I have several cities I work with where they're in the 40s on this question. And so, once again, really solid scores. Okay, so after those warm-up questions, we get down to business with what we call the initial ballot test. And the idea here is before we get any deeper into the interview and we start talking in more detail about how the funds of a measure might be spent, as well as presenting arguments pro and con related to a potential measure, we want to present to respondents a mock-up of what we think that 75-word ballot statement could look like and get their reaction. The initial ballot test is a really good gauge of where your voters are at on the natural with respect to this proposal, because all they've seen is the 75 words here. They don't have any of the additional information. You'll note that this is structured as a 1/2 cent general sales tax, and would raise about $11 million annually for city services and has a sunset of 10 years. So that's the language that we tested, and here are the results. So at that initial ballot test, we had 64% of respondents say that they would support this proposal. You had about 27% who were opposed, and the rest were unsure. In the state of California, for a general sales tax to pass, you need a simple majority, so you need 50% plus 1. So at this initial ballot test, we are sitting about 14 points above the simple majority required for passage. Not shown on this slide, but if you dig into these results and you look behind that pie chart to see how it breaks down across various subgroups, like based on how long they've lived in the city, whether they have children in the city, partisanship, household party type, age, gender, et cetera, you have widespread support. There are only a couple of these roughly 30-something subgroups that don't support this at a simple majority. And what's striking in today's world is that even when you look at it by partisanship, every single partisan subgroup was supportive of this above the simple majority. And that isn't always the case with measures. So widespread support. After the initial ballot test, we jump into what we call projects and services. And the idea here is really twofold. One is we are now going to start to educate respondents more about what this measure would accomplish. Up to this point, they'd only seen that 75-word ballot statement. You can only say so much in 75 words about how you might spend the money. Here we get to elaborate on the potential uses of these funds, and in that way, respondents are learning more about this proposal. The other thing it allows us to do is to understand of all the ways you could spend the money, how do voters feel about those various uses, and which of these rise to the top of the list and sort of form their priorities. The most obvious sort of takeaway from here is that there wasn't a single thing that we tested on this list that wasn't reasonably popular. I think the lowest rated item here had about 2/3 of voters say that they would favor spending some of the money on that item. But you do have quite a few of these prospective services and projects that could be funded that are testing at 85% plus in terms of favorability. And when you look at that top list, it really boils down to public works and public safety, right? There's a lot of specific public work projects in there as well as public safety services in there that form the priority. That is very consistent with what we tend to see when we're looking at potential sales tax measures around the state, that when push comes to shove, voters are most interested in funding public works as well as public safety. So if you as a council choose to place a measure on the upcoming November ballot, there will be an election cycle. And during that election cycle, there will be a lot of discussion and debate in the community about this proposal. You'll undoubtedly have folks who will step up and advocate on behalf of this measure to the community, talk to their friends and neighbors about why this is needed and why they should vote yes. You might also have some people who step up and say, this is a bad idea, I oppose it, and here's all the reasons why you should vote no. For this survey to be a reliable gauge of the feasibility of a sales tax measure, we need to simulate that discussion and debate in the space of the survey so we understand not only where your voters are today, which was that initial ballot test, but where are they once they hear both positive and negative arguments. And so we do that in the space of the poll by simulating both positive and negative arguments. Shown here are the positive arguments that we tested. The nature of the question is supporters of the measure say blank, you insert a positive argument. Do you think this is a very convincing, somewhat convincing, or not at all convincing reason to support the measure? And you can see here that a lot of the arguments get traction. What's interesting to me is at the top of the top three there, two of them aren't so much arguments as they are just basic information. So when it comes particularly to infrastructure, oftentimes residents don't really have a good understanding of the scale of the infrastructure that you as a city are required to deal with. And so like the third one down there says, the city maintains 204 miles of streets, 126 miles of storm drains, and 70 acres of parks and playfields, and this measure provides the funding we need to keep our streets, infrastructure, and parks in good condition. So I've found that just saying it's going to go for streets is one thing. When residents understand kind of you have over 200 miles of streets in the city, it's sort of a little bit of a game changer in terms of how they understand the magnitude of the infrastructure you have to take care of, and it helps them understand the need for revenue. So after the positive arguments, at this point, voters have heard more about this proposal than they did initially, right? That initial ballot test, they had the 75 words. Since that point, we had a chance to talk in more detail about how the money could be spent in terms of services and projects. We had a chance to convey positive arguments. We've yet to do the negatives. So we circle back to what we call our interim ballot test, where we present that same 75-word ballot statement, and we say, now that you've heard a bit more, where do you stand? And as you can see here on this slide, support ticks up a little bit. We are now sitting at 2/3, 67% support for this proposal, 27% opposed, and about 7% who are unsure, prefer not to answer the question. So we are sitting about 17 points above the simple majority that's required for passage. And then we get to the negatives. And the idea behind the negatives is I want to pepper respondents with a series of arguments that are designed to get them to vote no, right? I want to sort of simulate an opposition campaign and, press with hard-hitting negative arguments, the kind that we would expect an opponent of this measure to level against it. So we have a realistic understanding of how resilient is the yes vote for this proposal should you encounter opposition during the election cycle. So shown here are the negatives that we tested. You can see that we're coming at it from all angles. And you can see that some of the negatives here get traction, right? Four of the five have 60% plus of respondents say that it's at least a somewhat convincing reason to vote no. The real question, though, is what happens afterwards, and that is this. So the negatives cool us down about 7 points. That's pretty typical. It's not, every once in a while we'll get a measure where it's almost bulletproof and you can throw a bunch of negatives at it and it doesn't move. And then I've had some where it seems like everything's fine until you hit the negatives and then you drop 14 points. So a 6 or 7 point drop is pretty typical, but we're still landing at 60% support at the final ballot test after negatives. So we're still landing 10 points north of that simple majority that's required for passage. Okay, so I've got a couple slides here in terms of wrapping up. So what does all this mean? I'm going to circle back to that overarching question I mentioned at the outset as one of the main motivators for why you do this type of research, which is understand that the answer to the basic question of is it feasible? Meaning if you as a city council were to choose to move forward with a measure in November, does it have a reasonable chance of success? I think the answer to that question is clearly yes, based on these results. A lot of the things that we want to see in place for a measure to have a reasonable shot at success on Election Day, we see here in this poll, and those are the ones listed under positive signs. So clearly, voters really value the quality of life in the community. They value the services they receive from the city. They think you're doing a good job, but they also see some areas for improvement. That translated into very solid support for the measure at the initial ballot test. So with just that initial 75-word statement, we had 64% support for the proposal. All of the projects and services that we tested, voters saw the merit in, right? They liked what they saw in terms of spending funding on those items. The positive arguments we tested resonated. And importantly, at each point in the survey where we circled back to a respondent and we said, now that you've heard more about this proposal, right, where do you stand? Every one of those ballot tests was well above the simple majority required for passage, and that was even after we conveyed opposition arguments. So when we see that kind of pattern historically, and I've been doing this for 20 years, those are the kind of things that we want to see in place for a measure to have a good shot at being successful. Now that said, when you do the polling like this, there's also some challenges that pop out, either when you're looking at the polling or when you sort of step back and think about what November is going to look like as far as an election cycle. We did see that there was some receptiveness to the opposition arguments, right? When we tested those opposition arguments, it cooled support down for your measure about 7 points. So that's just something to keep in mind, right? We still were well above the simple majority, but they did put a bit of a dent in support. And then also, when you think about what this upcoming November election cycle is going to look like, it's going to be pretty emotional, right? It's not the kind of, every once in a while you get election cycles where it's sort of blue skies and tailwinds all the way to Election Day, and there's not a lot of division, there's not a lot of emotion in it. I feel this is going to be one where we're going to have a lot of hyper-partisanship, right? There's also some other statewide measures on the ballot that could create a little bit of headwinds. I say that not because I think that this is something that would derail your measure, but you always want to recognize that when you're putting a measure on the ballot, you want it to have the kind of buffer of support that yours does, right? If you're sitting at a simple majority at this point in the poll at the end, you'd have to really question whether that's a measure that could survive the next 8 months to Election Day. You fortunately have enough of a buffer of support that I think you can. So in terms of observations and recommendations, the one thing I want to also emphasize is, as promising as these results are, and they are promising, a poll like this is a snapshot in time. It's not a crystal ball looking forward to Election Day and saying you're going to get 64% on Election Day. It tells you where you are today, tells you how your voters tend to react to the types of information that they would encounter during an election cycle. But ultimately, what happens on Election Day isn't dictated by what your poll says today. It's dictated by everything that happens from this point forward. And so I say that because it's just a nice reminder that we need to be making smart decisions about how you structure a measure so that it's consistent with the type of measure that your community has said that they're interested in supporting. And you got to put the work in terms of communication, both on the city side in helping inform voters about the need behind this measure. And then ultimately, there should be an independent campaign if it were to move forward. Private dollars, not city funded, right? Volunteers, but can speak on behalf of this measure during that 88-day window leading up to Election Day. So that is the end of my presentation. I know Jared has a slide that he'll be talking about as well, but let me pause here and see if there's any questions from council.
Does anyone have any questions?
Do you want to,
Deputy Mayor? Do we want to hear the rest? There is more presentation.
Sure, I'll stick around.
Jared? Jared?
Sure. You want to come on
away.
up? I won't. I'll be right here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, city manager. My name is Jared Boygan. I'm with a firm called Team Civics, and we're a communications firm that specializes in working with cities and other public agencies in talking to their residents and voters about potential tax measures such as this. And the reason for that is that there are close to 53,000 registered voters in the city of San Marcos. Dr. McClarney has done a terrific job with inferential statistics, giving you a statistically valid survey of those voters. Some very interesting information about it, but as he mentioned, that's 800 responses out of 53,000. As he also mentioned, one thing that's really important for city officials, in our experience, is that before you make a final decision, the city manager said at the outset, you're not being asked to make any decisions today. Before you make a final decision, which has to be done before August 9th of this year about this measure being on the ballot, it really makes sense to vet this idea further and be transparent about it. So let's go out to the community before you've made a final decision, tell them that you're thinking about making this decision, explain why you're thinking about doing it, and explain that it's a sales tax and has some cost that's affiliated with it, and kind of see what people say. So we've got quantitative data. Let's go get some qualitative data in addition. So in our experience, cities that are going down this road really should undertake 3 milestones before they get to that all-important city council vote that you would potentially consider in the summertime. The first is a feasibility study. Is this even possible in our community? And the bulk of that feasibility study is a statistically valid survey of voters, which you've now completed. We're here. We've finished the first milestone. So there's 2 other things that make sense to do. One is this awareness building, where not in an advocacy way, but in a transparent, fact-based, informational way, city staff goes out and shares with members of the public, both sort of all residents in a social media and direct mail kind of way, but also where people meet and gather, Chamber of Commerce breakfast or a Rotary Club lunch or, those kinds of things. Let's go talk about what we're doing, talk about what we're thinking about, explain why we think we need it, explain that there's a cost, and kind of hear questions and hear feedback and hear concerns. And that kind of input can get reflected back to all of you as council members and decision makers and, give folks in the community a chance to kind of chew on this a little bit before you all make a final commitment. The third milestone is something we call measured development, which is there will be a resolution and an ordinance that comes forward to council if council chooses to consider something like that in a later date this summer. And that measure, as it comes together, should really reflect the public input that you hear, both the statistically valid input that we get from Dr. McClarney's study, but also qualitative input that you might hear. So, for example, when we were working with the city of Oceanside on their successful sales tax in 2018, we got a lot of input from the downtown business community, and that input was important, and the city staff wanted to incorporate that input into their first ever successful local sales tax, and they did that. So that was a way of helping the whole community walk forward together. And then only then do we move on to that fourth column, which when many of us think, oh gosh, sales tax, we think there's going to be a campaign, there's going to be doors knocked and, phone banks and lawn signs and direct mail. And, there may be all those things. The city cannot pay for those things. Those things have to be privately funded and volunteer-led. But those things don't really even start to take off and take shape until we've gone through these first few steps of transparent public engagement and information. So that's what the rest of the sort of timeline and milestones would look like, or do look like, as we engage in sort of this extended transparency and public input. And I think with that, I'm here to available to answer questions, as I know Dr. McLarney is as well.
We have 12 speakers, so would we like to ask questions and then have the speakers come up?
I'd like to hear the speakers.
Yeah. Sorry, we have 12 speakers. Okay, that's what I was thinking, but I wanted to hear everyone's input on that. Okay, first up will be Chris Freeman, followed by Verenda Missett, followed by Brett Van Way, and then we'll get to the rest.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council members, staff. Chris Freeman. My wife and I have lived in San Marcos for 11 years now. We have 4 little ones that are just starting to hit school age. So it's difficult to get to these meetings sometimes, but I thought this item was important enough to come out and share some thoughts I had on it. From what I know about this idea right now, I think it's a really good idea for the city of San Marcos. I'm still open to it, but from what I can understand, it seems like a very good thing. I think when people are faced with a tax measure, they look at it from 2 sides. How does this benefit me? And then how does this impact me, like in my pocketbook? The benefits are pretty obvious. The city is going to be able to do a lot of money with this money. It's local control money. I'm probably going to say a lot of things that I think most of us already know, but maybe many people don't know these things. And if I say something factually incorrect, please correct me, because I don't want anyone to walk away with the wrong idea. But the city right now gets only 1 cent per dollar in sales tax. So when you go out and you buy something and you're charged 7.75, the city's only getting 1 cent of that. So a 1 cent tax measure would double the money that the city's bringing in sales tax revenue. That could be to the tune of $20 million a year. The city's operating budget is only 90-ish per year. So that's a significant amount of money that staff will be able to use to benefit the city. We have to give staff the tools they need to do their job, and money is a tool. How does this impact me? So I think when people think of a sales tax, they think everything I buy is now going to go up. There's a lot of things that this won't hit. This doesn't hit groceries that you buy. This doesn't hit gasoline at the pump. Utilities are not charged a sales tax. Services are not charged a sales tax. So when you go to the salon or the mechanic, you're not going to be paying extra on those things. The city puts out a sales tax update on their website. I printed out the most recent one, which was July through September, and they list on here the top 25 sales tax producers for the city. I'm not going to name any of these retailers, but I think people should look at this and say, do I shop at these places? If I do, I might be paying a little bit more. But honestly, I don't shop at a lot of these places. It's broken down by categories. There are 9 retailers in here in the building and construction field. So that's supply companies that service all of North County. So people from Oceanside and Vista and contractors and cities and water agencies come to buy these things from here, from San Marcos. If the sales tax goes up 1%, do we really think that they're going to start shopping somewhere else for these things? And I think the answer is no. So I think the sales tax is generally known as a proportional tax. So it hits everyone kind of evenly. It also hits non-residents. So people coming in from outside of San Marcos are going to be contributing to what we can do with that money here. The other thing is the state only allows 2% additional sales tax to be passed. We already pay a 0.5 cent, I believe, to the county. So if another agency or Sandag or the county were to try to put a sales tax measure on the ballot and it passes, it's going to limit our ability to do it. So if someone else puts a 1 cent on, then now the city of San Marcos can only go and possibly put a ½ cent on. So it's important that we pass this in November to get that money locally. I took a government finance class one time, so I think I obviously know everything there is to know about government finance. But I blew the dust off an old book, Local Tax Policy by Brunori. I'm not going to bore you with a ton of it, but he's got a few problems that he sees with he's a big proponent of the local sales tax. And Dave Brunori is known nationally as an expert in municipality sales tax. The few problems that he sees, I don't really think apply to San Marcos. He says that the sales tax is a shrinking tax base because people are buying more and more services. Well, if you look at the report from 6 years ago, in Q3 from San Marcos, we pulled in $4.4 million in sales tax, and most recently in this quarter, we pulled in 5.5. So the sales tax is not shrinking in San Marcos. Interjurisdictional competition. Are people going to drive to Vista or Escondido to make their purchases? I don't really think so. So in my last 5 seconds, I'd like to say, while this will raise the sales tax rate, I'd also like to see what the city can do to increase the tax base. What other retailers can we bring into San Marcos to try to increase the overall pot? Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next up, Verinda, followed by Brett Van Way, and then Jack Hayes.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Verinda Missett from Interfaith Community Services. Tonight I'm representing the San Marcos Chamber members. There are over 4,000 businesses in the city of San Marcos, most classified as small businesses. Many are homegrown, owned, and operated by our neighbors and our friends like me who grew up here. We are proud to put down roots here to be small business owners and residents and send our children to school here. We know that our community is worthy of investment, and we want to preserve the quality of life that residents here enjoy. We want San Marcos to be seen as a safe community with reliable police and fire support. A clean community with parks and area roads that are litter-free, no potholes and no graffiti. We want San Marcos to be an affordable community with a reasonable climate for doing business and raising a family. Today, we see San Marcos as a healthy community, and we must do all that is necessary to keep it that way. For these reasons, we will carefully monitor the council's recommendation for increasing the city's sales tax. We value our strong partnership with the city and the San Marcos business community and appreciate the high level of service that the city offers. We appreciate that the population and costs continue to increase, and we realize that further cuts would affect the overall city services. And we really support the council looking into new revenue opportunities and creating a long-term plan for ongoing fiscal sustainability. Thank you for your support for the business community, and we look forward to participating in the review process as we monitor these efforts going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Verinda. Next up, Brett Van Way, followed by Jack Hayes, and then Jeff McCloskey.
Hello, Brett
Okay.
Van Way.
I do have to say one thing, so we can stop your time. Our past chief, so good to see you.
It's so
Thank
good
you.
to do.
Thank you.
So yes, I'm the retired fire chief. I was here 34 years. And so for me, when I started here in 1986, we had 2 fire stations. We were a failing fire district. We had 5 people on duty every day. That's enough to run 1 medical aid in the city currently of what we do. We had no ALS services, which are paramedic. Now we have roughly 26 people on duty every day. I think every single person, including the chief, is a paramedic. And I think that the investment that we showed through the struggles of the 90s, this building is one of them, our training facility. When we invested early in our training facility for not only public safety with the sheriff and law enforcement, also the training facility for the fire department, what we did is we brought the fire service together because at the time we could not service as individual agencies all over North County, all over the county, and all those efforts that have been made, all from dispatch to shared units, that's all fine and well, but we need to continue to grow in San Marcos to support ourselves and be self-sufficient. And so part of what we do is continue to grow that, and I think the fire department has been very innovative in its revenue sources and trying to get everybody to not be unfair to the citizens when we service them, but also provide the stations. And when we do that, we've always provided all the fire stations and all the facilities we plan out in the future. We don't build something that's just good for today. We build something that's good for 30 years down the road. And that's what's important about now, is if you fall behind that curve, I think the public safety facility, and P.A. Harris was here, so I'm glad she's here, only cost the city of San Marcos at the time about $8 million, $8.5 million. And everybody and every agency after that that tried to build one was upwards of quadruple of what that was. So the investment early not only saves us now, but it saves us in the future. And so I would just encourage you to continue to support not only public safety and everything the study says, but it's really important, obviously, as we know, to make sure that we support these gentlemen over here. And everything we do to support them, firefighters do not leave San Marcos. One of the biggest things you have a problem with is people staying, especially with the current environment of this generation. People that work in San Marcos typically, especially, I know I can speak for the fire department and the sheriff's department, it's a great place to work, and they do not leave, and they stay for their career, as I did for 34 years. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Jack Hayes, followed by Jeff McCloskey, and then Dave Polly.
Thank you for your time. Hard to follow Chief Van Way. It's good to see him. I think that says a lot about how great the organization that I work for, that my former fire chief came out here to present in front of you and to the public. Not only how wonderful this place is to work, but how great of an experience is that he had in continuing to move forward. I don't want to lose sight of that. My name's Jack Hayes. I've lived and worked here in San Marcos for almost 20 years. My wife and I have blended our families together. We purchased our homes here. Our kids go to the school district. We have one leaving college, one's going into college, another one into high school, and a little one almost in middle school. So we are as invested in this community as anyone has ever been. And we're very proud of that. Just a little back history on me. The reason why I was hired as a fireman here years ago is because of Station 4. Station 4 in San Elijo Hills, that project, there was a need for that community. And we were able to see into the future that public service and public safety is going to be a major priority here. And so through the fire department and through the city, we were able to go ahead and build a station that was there. And I was a part of that growth. That was 20 years ago. There's areas of San Marcos, and I understand there's traffic, and the way that things look now are not like they were 20 years ago. But our brothers to the west of us, Vista, provide responses to us in our city on a regular basis. And they're great. They're outstanding individuals. But this is our town. This is our footprint that we've made, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to go ahead and give everybody the same opportunity throughout the city and provide those services moving forward. So as a citizen of the community, you hear about a tax measure. It's easy to kind of look the other way, but I'm really glad that I was able to sit and listen to what was presented tonight, because there's a lot of value behind that. And the value that we provide as an organization to our community will continue moving forward at a high level. I don't want to lose that. So again, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jack. Husky, followed by Dave Polly, and then it will be Dan Max.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council and City staff. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of you tonight. My name is Jeff McCloskey, and I've had the pleasure of working with some of you on City Council over the years. And when preparing my thoughts for tonight is I told myself I'm going to speak from my heart. And the question I asked myself is, what does the city of San Marcos mean to me and my family? And that answer is, it means everything. I was hired with our fire department in 2006, and in very short order, you come to realize what a great town this is to live, work, and play in. You know, fast forward to 2011, my wife and I, we made the decision that this is a town we wanted to establish our roots in and grow our family. You know, I've been a resident of the Discovery Hills community in District 2 for the past 13 years, and we've loved every minute of it. I was able to talk my parents into relocating from Orange County, where they currently live in San Elijo Hills, and they have the same feelings that my wife and I have. You know, what do we love about our town? It's the quality of life that we have. It's our beautiful parks, our walkable trails. Luckily in District 2, we have Discovery Lake in our backyard. I also appreciate the amenities and the fields that our city provides for our youth sports organizations. I have 2 boys who are 7 and 9 years old, and they have a passion to play baseball. And I look forward to those opportunities when I'm not on duty on the weekends to be out there coaching them and watching them play the game that they love. That brings me happiness. So I look at the quality of life is how do we achieve that? And what it takes is it takes leadership at the top level, and it takes a strong city staff, and it's all the people who work for the city across all departments, is that they have that motivation and that desire to provide the high level of customer service of what our community expects. So if we look outside our council chamber walls, is that you see a city that's growing and expanding. And I understand that's vital to keep a city moving forward and keeping it healthy. But knowing that we've had a lean work staff ever since I've started here, is at what point are we gonna outpace our ability to properly serve our community? And I look at a few different ways. One thing I think about is there potential for city cuts where we're gonna be balancing our budget that way. I look at last year, it's the first time in many years is that we had to dip into our reserves to balance our budget. And I think all of us in this room understand that that's not a healthy or sustainable option for us moving forward. I look at this tax measure, is that provides the funding that we may need as a city, is to sustain our quality of life and to potentially enhance it for generations to come. You know, from the public safety aspect of me working here, we've been a 4-station department since 2008, and since that time, we've doubled our call volume. You know, I look at our increased population, the traffic that we have, is that delays our response times. There are moments during the day where we may not have an ambulance that's in our city, and we're relying on our neighboring jurisdictions of Vista and Carlsbad Fire Department, where they're coming into our city and providing the transport of the people who call 911. Something near and dear to my heart. My mom is gonna be upset for me mentioning this in a public setting, but in 2001, she experienced a medical emergency in San Elijo. She had a cardiac arrest. And my family was lucky that we had the resources available at that time. It was around 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. The quick action of our paramedics, the resource availability, and them to provide the treatment, my mom is still here today. I look at circumstances, if they were different, where we were relying on another city and that delayed response time, my mom may not be here. And to me, that would be devastating for my family. So with council members, you're at the highest level of leadership within our city, and you provide the vision of where we're gonna head in the future. And I understand you may have external factors that may pull you one direction or another, but one thing I can ask as a resident is to please support this measure being placed on our ballot. Allow us community members and voters who live here is to make that decision for the community. I have talked to people on my street, my friends in the community, my neighborhood community with the baseball program about the sales tax, and they're all for it to keep our city moving forward. I appreciate your time tonight, and I appreciate what you do for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Dave Polly, followed by Dan Max, and then Brian Duffy will be next.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is David Polly, and I'm honored to be the Vice President of the San Marcos Professional Firefighters Association. This was supposed to be more of a conclusive speech. However, my time slot was bumped a little bit, and we're flexible, and I am honored to be up here. I am encouraged after attending this evening's meeting to see the positive results of the surveys. to hear from many San Marcos residents who want the city to continue providing the great services it has been known for quite some time, and to know that our city council is dedicated to overcoming the financial challenge before us. You heard this evening from some of our members and a few more members who are not only dedicated firefighters, but also deeply invested in this city. The critical necessity of establishing a 5th fire station and augmenting our department is long overdue and well justified. The recent standards of coverage study only serves to underscore what a similar study revealed back in 2017. While it has been exciting to see growth that has occurred in our city since 2008, which is the last time we have had added a fire station, it is disheartening that public safety staffing hasn't kept pace. I'm extremely proud of the extraordinary men and women of the San Marcos Professional Firefighters Association, yet it is both unsafe and irresponsible to continuously ask them to do more with less with each passing year. Our city deserves better, and our firefighters deserve better. In the face of financial challenges that we all face, my optimism is fueled by the knowledge that we have 5 dedicated elected officials, individuals we trust to make decisions in the best interests of our city. Today, I humbly implore you to empower the people of San Marcos by allowing them to cast their votes on the initiative introduced tonight. Let the citizens decide if they wish to invest further in public safety, city services, and the unparalleled quality of life that defines San Marcos. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. Up next is Dan Max, followed by Brian Duffy, and then, oh, I have 2 here for Jeff McCloskey. I don't know why that is. Sorry. And then Tanis Brown. My apologies.
How you guys doing today?
Good.
Great. Awesome. Well, I come to you wearing 2 hats. My first hat that I wear is a father hat. I have 3 children, 10, 9, and 4. I also come to you as the president of San Marcos Youth Baseball. We currently have nearly 1,100 youth in our program. That includes players, that includes over 60 youth umpires, and that includes now over 350 volunteers. I come to you with this tax measure because I don't want you guys to forget a very large populace of this city. When the survey was completed, I did not see anything on there about children, about kids, about the youth of this wonderful community. First, though, before I get into that, I want to thank you guys for the job that you do. I have been president of San Marcos Youth Baseball for almost 2 years. I have been in customer service for 20 years. I don't get compliments about a job well done. I get complaint after complaint after complaint, and I can only imagine you guys get the exact same, okay? You guys are a lot like what I did when I was 14 years old as an umpire. Every decision I made the decision because I thought that was best with the evidence provided to me, not the popular opinion. This one here, I think when we go under step 2 and speak to our community, we need to remember the youth. It sounds like there's a lot of information out there about this tax measure, about the different decisions that you guys have to make. And it reminded me of a study I learned in business school that when you have a soda vending machine, you have one standalone soda vending machine, it does pretty decent in sales. But when you add 2 competing vending machines, you get more sales total, okay? Each vending machine does better. Changes the psychology of the question. The question is no longer, do I want a soda? The question is now, what soda do I want? And it sounds like you guys have a similar one. I heard a half cent, I heard a full cent. I have not heard any opposition to this tax measure, so it sounds like the community is thirsty. Now, are we gonna give them Coke or are we gonna give them Pepsi, right? We've already seen, as my responsibilities as president of the youth organization, I've already seen the effects of the cutbacks. I've already seen families having to explain to their kids that they can't play baseball, they can't play sports, okay? And I hope it's okay for my youth sports council, as I am a member of the youth sports council, for me to speak on their behalf as well. Soccer, rugby, lacrosse, football. I did hear a story at the end of last year that we had rainouts on a gymnasium indoors. Basketball was being rained out indoors, right? So when we look at tax measures, we look at having to cut things, what's being cut. A lot of times it's non-essentials. I've been grateful enough to not have to utilize the services of the fire department, but I do know that they respond very quickly. 5 traffic accidents in my front yard, and they've responded within a minute and a half, 2 minutes each time. So I know it's there when I need it. I sleep well at night knowing that if I call for the fire department, they're going to be there quickly. We need those services. Yes, I get that. I understand that. But at the same time, we have a very large demographic that was not discussed. And I would just want you guys, when you go back and make this decision over the next few months, to talk to them as well, to ask them what's important to their day-to-day life. What do they need? What do they want? Or ask their parents as well. But please don't forget the youth. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Next up, Brian Duffy, followed by Tanis Brown, and then Salvador Roman. Yeah, Salvador Roman.
Hi, thanks for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Brian Duffy, and I'm a resident in District 2. I know that there are a few of us here tonight that are somewhat unusual, being both a homeowner in the city and also an employee working for the city. I have worked for the fire department for the past 8 years, and when I was hired, I swore an oath to serve and protect the citizens of San Marcos. Being one of these unique individuals provides me with valuable insight of the city and also a different perspective of how the city is operated. However, one difference that sets me even further apart is that in the past, I've worked for other cities that have faced similar financial challenges. One of the many reasons that I love living and working in San Marcos is the city's emphasis on customer service. Working as a firefighter paramedic, every patient, every citizen is a customer that expects and rightfully deserves the best. My interactions with the employees of the city when I needed anything as a homeowner have been extraordinary. This is with the Public Works, the Parks Department, and even the preschool. But what is even more remarkable about this level of customer service is that I know the city is operating with minimal employees who are being asked to do more and more each day. Another reason why I love living and working in the city is that I know the city is how fiscally responsible the city has been. Being fiscally responsible is even part of the mission statement of the fire department. Being a homeowner in the city and knowing that the city receives far fewer tax dollars than any other city in San Diego County, and comparing our facilities, services, and employees to the other cities solidifies my belief that I chose the right city to work for and live in. So I'm here tonight to ask all the city council members to allow the citizens of San Marcos to vote on the proposed tax measure. I attended the goal-setting meeting, and I've also attended the council meetings where the council was presented with budget deficits that are projected to be worse for years to come. Sorry, I hate public speaking. If you're having a heart attack, I'm okay.
You're doing okay.
Talking to a large group. So I'm here tonight to ask all of you to support I'm here tonight to ask all the city council members to allow the citizens of San Marcos to vote on a proposed tax measure. I'm already past that. Sorry. So in the goal-setting meeting that I attended, ideas were mentioned about selling city property, making even more budget cuts, or allowing cannabis dispensaries. While these are all great ideas to overcome short-term funding problems, they will not fix the long-term problems that we need to face. These are great ideas to overcome short-term funding problems. They will not fix the long-term problem that we will face the same issues in the future. In my past experiences, when the city's councils have failed to fix the long-term problem, what suffered most was the customer service. My previous department chose to brown out vehicles to fix the problem. So on some days, one ambulance and one fire company were taken completely out of service. While that may have helped with the budget, customers felt the pain with increased response times, delays in cares, a lack of manpower at large incidents, and great employees looking to work elsewhere. I grew up in the Midwest, and my father owned a small grocery store. From the time I was 7 until my late teens, I worked in that store. Initially, I was stocking shelves while standing on top of milk crates, to running the register by age 12 and working in a deli by 14. I bring this up because this is where I developed my sense of customer service, my sense of fiscal responsibility, and also my deep hatred of taxes. But this is where I also developed my business sense and learned at an early age that if expenditures are outpacing revenue, something must be done. The city has made all the cuts they can to maintain a level of customer service that citizens have come to rely on and a level of service that has people fighting to move here. So against all my personal political beliefs, I'm here tonight to support a tax measure. I can stand behind this tax measure because I know how fiscally responsible the city council and the city leaders have been, which isn't always the case. Our city leaders, each and every one of you, understand that the tax dollars are paid by the citizens and every dollar needs to be used to support those citizens. I know that the city is growing at a rapid pace, and without this tax measure, services will suffer. It has been over 15 years since the city added a fire station. When Station 4 was added in 2008, the call volume was at 7,000 for that year. Last year, we almost doubled that. So it is unrealistic and irresponsible to continue to think that our level of service the city provides will be able to continue without additional long-term funding. I know that the City Council has been great stewards of our tax dollars, and you will use them to benefit all the citizens. But now you, as elected officials, have to make a hard decision. When I first began speaking, I mentioned the oath I took to become a firefighter. I swore to protect and serve the citizens of San Marcos. As I stand here tonight, I cannot count on the amount of times I've been called to act when I've not been on duty. But I will always help and I will always serve because that was what I was sworn to do. So before I go, I just want to remind all you City Council members that you have also taken an oath of office. In your oath, you swore to serve the interests of the citizens that elected you to office. You were elected by the citizens of San Marcos to make tough decisions in the best interest of the city. So please, I'm asking, please give the people that voted for you the opportunity to voice their opinion and vote for the tax measure to keep San Marcos extraordinary.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Tanis, followed by Salvador, and then Justin Matsushita.
So I'm not the last speaker. Anyway, I wanted to tell you guys tonight that when I first moved to San Marcos, it was kind of dumpy. Now, it's not that way anymore, and part of the reason is because in this room tonight, there are giants among us that made sure that we moved forward in what we needed to do. In 1976, I went to work for the City of San Marcos Park and Recreation Department, and I would get so upset because they'd say, well, we can't provide this because we don't have the budget, and this is when it was just like eggs for the Easter egg hunt. We got to get a sponsor, or we can't build a park until we get some extra money because we can't. But the only park we had was on a dump. So I'm here to tell you, and I'm not making any secrets to you guys, but San Marcos has come a long way in the 50 years that I've lived here. And it's because of a lot of the people that are here in our audience. Vrinda Singh was in elementary school, and here they are back tonight to say, listen, San Marcos, you gotta make it go forward. And sadly, I don't even live in this city anymore, but I'm still telling you, yes, I'll pay a 1 penny tax because I love this city and I can't imagine going anywhere else. So, it's really important that we keep all the things that we have continued to provide for all the residents, and I know you're going to do the right thing, and I appreciate your time and all the things that I've benefited from in San Marcos. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanis. Salvador's up next, followed by Justin Matsushita, and then our final speaker, Gary Levitt.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, esteemed members of City Council. My name is Zal Rahman. I wrote a whole speech and then I had to rewrite it because everyone delivered way better points than I had. So I'll try to keep it simple. I'm a resident and a member of the Budget Review Commission. I came here when I was 18 to go to college here. I ended up staying here. I ended up getting married here. I ended up buying a house here. Now my wife is working for the school district here. And I want to begin with a heartfelt thank you to city staff whose dedication and commitment has been instrumental in making San Marcos the exceptional city that it is today. Their hard work does not only sustain but enhances our quality of life that we cherish. As we look ahead to the discussion of the half-cent sales tax initiative, it is an opportunity for thoughtful consideration of what lies ahead. This initiative stands as a beacon for our city's growth and sustainability, guiding us towards maintaining the exceptional quality of life that we pride ourselves as San Marcos residents. All I ask is that you consider the possibility of this initiative. I ask that you place the confidence in the data that was provided. I ask that you place confidence in city staff's recommendations. Their forthcoming diligence and strategic insight into this initiative will undoubtedly pave the way for a prosperous San Marcos. The support in maintaining our infrastructure and services ensure San Marcos remains a nurturing, inclusive, and vibrant community for all. It's about investing in our shared future, safeguarding the essence of what makes our city truly special. My support for this initiative is personal. I have my abuelitos, my grandparents, who come visit me every once in a while. They're wheelchair bound, but they're not stationary. They love to go out. One of the biggest problems that we have in where I live is there's a lot of sidewalks. Well, there's some places where there isn't sidewalks, and there's some places where it's not the most ADA friendly. I believe that this initiative could help mitigate or solve some of these issues. I hope you see and envision a San Marcos where my future children can experience and enjoy the same quality of life that we hold dear today. It's about creating a legacy of a community, well-being, and opportunity that endures for generations. Earlier, it was mentioned that San Marcos is one of the best cities, and I 100% agree with that. I just would like to maintain it as one of the best cities for my kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Justin Matsushita, followed by Gary Levitt, and then Jordan Ray.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. My wife's probably going to murder me tonight, so I just want to get that out there because I told her I was taking her to dinner, and I brought her to a council meeting instead.
That's terrible.
But I'm going to come through. I swear we're going to Amalfi after this. I'm a third-generation San Marcos resident. My grandparents moved here in the 50s. My dad raised me over off of Fulton and then Auburn. And I currently reside in San Elijo Hills, amazing community, on Tucana Drive with my two sons. And one has graduated from San Marcos High School, and the other one's attending San Marcos High School. We have deep roots in San Marcos. Father still lives here. My sisters still live here. My uncle lives here. And my hope, my true hope, is, and this is why I'm here tonight, I want my boys to live here. I want my boys to spend their lives here. And I want to have grandkids here. I really do. I don't mean that superficially. I mean that genuinely. They mean the world to me. And I've seen this community grow at an exponential rate. My time here preceded almost everything you see here. And I got to applaud our decision makers in the city for what you've done over the years. I got to applaud our city council. You deserve a lot of credit. But I also have to applaud our subject matter experts, our department heads, and all the city staff, because you all know that is how stuff gets done. They are the ones that make the hard decisions and the recommendations to you. And I don't envy your position. Being in city governance is hard, and you are underpaid for what you do. You are paid pennies for the time that you put in. And I'm not going to pretend to be a politician or an expert in politics, but I am an expert in San Marcos. I genuinely am. You will find very few people with as deep roots and as many connections in this community as I have. I love this town. Mayor Jones, you said that this is the greatest city, and I agree. And I think we need to take it upon ourselves to make sure this stays the greatest city. We need to make sure that we have a clean community. We have the best public safety in the county, if not the state, including more police and more firefighters. We need to give our amazing staff who takes care of this city the resources to do their jobs. I had some really amazing, insightful things to say, but like, you know, some other speakers said, everyone else said a lot of things already. And so I don't want to take too much more of your time. Plus I see this timer here is giving me anxiety. But I'll say this, I love stats. I love stats. I love data. I have a master's in public administration, and I'm just about to finish my doctorate in emergency management. Statistics are meaningful. And this, with the data that you have been presented, this is a no-brainer. This is as easy as it gets. This is pretty simple. The citizens have spoken. That is very statistically significant information, saying that this is what your community members want. This is what your voters want. This is what I want. This is what my family wants. We want more services. We will continue to want more services. We do not want less. And I do not ever want to hear the leadership here asking your staff to do more with less. That is unfair. That is a demotivating statement, and I pray that I never hear those words coming from anyone up on this dais. It is a tough job that you have. But again, this is a no-brainer. And I'm asking you a few very simple things. Do not put your own agenda or political interests above your job and your duty to serve the citizens of San Marcos. I get how this is going to play out. There's going to be some talking heads and people with very strong opinions about what we should and shouldn't do in San Marcos. Well, if they don't live here, they should shut their goddamn mouths. I'm not interested in what they have to say. I care about the citizens, the people in this room, and so should you. So block out the noise. Don't listen to the nonsense of the talking heads and the political agenda. Do not let them hijack this decision. Lastly, I just want to say thank you. I'm not here to lecture you, but I truly am here to thank you for what you do. Your job is tough. This decision is not tough, though.
Thank you, Justin. Gary Levitt, followed by Jordan Ray.
Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm Gary Levitt, and I'm an investor in the city. When I first became an investor in the city, I was so impressed with the fiscal responsibility that the city represented and the unique ways that it addressed the challenges that all cities face. And I'm here tonight to say one thing, and that is that together we need to address the situation we find ourselves in and work together to come up with solutions. And it's important that we proactively get on with that, and tonight is the start of the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker, Jordan Ray.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jordan Ray. Thank you for taking your time out of your night being here this evening. Stand in front of you tonight. 29-year resident of San Marcos. I've lived here my whole life since I was born. I'm a fourth generation in San Marcos. I have my daughter in the back who's fifth generation now, so take deep pride in being in the city, and ultimately now I work here. I'm a father. I'm a firefighter paramedic with the San Marcos Fire Department, a member of the San Marcos Professional Firefighters Association. I'm in support of placing this tax measure on the ballot. A little why I'm standing in front of you here today. 15 years ago in 2009 was my first introduction into the fire department and the San Marcos Fire Department. Early in the morning, my brother, my father, and I found my mom unresponsive on the floor, cardiac arrest. We began CPR on her, activated 911. They came out with a timely response, dedicated, professionalism, and that left an everlasting impression on me, why I'm standing here today and why I'm employed with the city as a firefighter paramedic. Unfortunately, for our scenario, it was not a positive outcome. Nonetheless, the professionalism that our department gave to me as a young man is what led me here today. 15 years ago, that's been since my mom passed away from cardiac arrest in the middle of the night. In the past 15 years, we've had a population growth of about 20,000. It's still growing. Our call volume has doubled since then. And in that 15 years, we've only had the additional one rescue ambulance that's able to provide ALS capabilities to our citizens. We've had no new stations introduced, no new personnel introduced onto our engine companies or our trunk companies. There's been very little that's been done as far as emergency services in the 15 years that I've seen my mom pass away. Those 6 minutes that I waited for emergency services to arrive, it felt like an eternity. In our line of work, that's a pretty good response, but when you're waiting for a loved one when you need those emergency services, 6 minutes feels like an eternity. And again, with our double in call growth and only one addition of rescue ambulance, those times are only growing. And I think it's imperative that we remain fiscally stable by passing a tax measure so that we can continue to deliver that level of customer service that I've been shown to give back to our customers. Additionally, again, I've been here for 29 years, been here my whole life. Coming from a youth standpoint, I grew up with all the amenities of San Marcos that made it a great place to grow up in your youth. The different sports complexes, Mission Sports Park, Woodland Park, Corky Smith Gym that services our San Marcos Youth Baseball, which we had the pleasure of having our president speak of, the San Marcos Youth Basketball League, as well as the AOSO soccer leagues. So San Marcos was one of the best places to grow up as a kid when it came to our sports leagues, our parks, the skate parks that was over at Hollandia, the indoor soccer field over at Bradley Park that I played at. So between the emergency services that now I'm working here, I'm able to get a more in-depth look, and coming here, growing up in my youth here, I'm asking council to place the tax measure on the ballot because us as citizens definitely have been here for many years and have come from generations in San Marcos. We've grown to have a level of what we expect out of the city. I'm asking that you allow us to vote so that we can maintain that level of service that we've had for so long. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for our public speakers. Any questions of our consultants this evening?
Sure, I'll
Deputy
jump
Mayor.
in.
Okay.
So I have some questions and some comments.
Sorry, could I stop you for 1 minute?
Sure.
I just want to say thank you for all of the speakers. It was really heartfelt, and some of the discussion was very transparent, and really appreciate that. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So yes, I just wanted to thank everybody for coming because I think the important thing about you coming is you heard the facts. So you're going to hear a lot of things from this point forward, but you're going to know the facts, and not everybody's going to know the facts. So thank you for taking time and for you giving up your dinner.
Yeah, you better
Till
get
later.
going.
I also want to thank our staff because they are the ones that have been carrying this load, getting us to the point. We can give direction, but they're the ones that make it happen. So thank you to all of you, because I know everybody's had a lot of, yes, thank you. And we didn't really know what this was going to be tonight. All we knew was it's looking positive. And I'm kind of astonished at how positive it was. So you kept a good secret. So I came prepared tonight with questions. So you're going to think this is all canned, but I came prepared. I told staff so they would know that these are my questions I'm going to ask, because I want them to be able to give the answers, and the consultants, so that everybody hears the answer, and you don't have to go back and listen to the council meeting. Some of these questions I'm going to ask have been asked by some of you, that I've talked to a lot of people in the community, so you'll know if your question's been asked. My first question, and I'm going to kind of let Michelle and these guys tag team as to who's going to answer the question. I might have a couple that are specific to either of you, but
So my first question is, can we have on our website, on a prominent page, the various PowerPoints that have been used for presentations to talk to people in the community that have been provided to us through different workshops? Could those be on the website? So anybody that wants to review anything that's pertinent to this question or the budget, that could be done?
Yes, from a practical standpoint, there is the ability to create a spotlight landing page and put all of the information together. We have hired outside counsel to partner with our city attorney to make sure that we vet everything to be sure that it's fact-based and is appropriate for this process. So we would just run everything through our outside counsel and our city attorney, and then yes, practically speaking, we can accommodate that.
Okay. And then we've received some information, and it was mentioned tonight. Thank you, Chris, for mentioning this. And I know you were speaking as a resident, but thank you for being on the Budget Review Committee. Can you explain what he was talking about the local sales tax cap in San Diego County and how that affects us moving forward?
Yes, Jared, do you want Donna and I to tackle that, or are you comfortable diving in?
Either way. Okay.
Take the floor.
Thank you, council member, city manager. There is, as I understand it, a 2% available local sales tax increment in California. In other words, local cities and counties and agencies are allowed to capture up to 2% above what the state has established before you run into a maximum cap. So you're not allowed, without special state dispensation, to go above that cap. So within that 2%, you're not the only local agency who can try and levy that 2% within San Marcos. The county can try to do it. A half cent of it, I believe, is already gone and committed to the Transnet initiative. And there is already qualified for this fall another half cent for that would go through Sandag, that go through the county for Sandag for transportation infrastructure improvements that would take another half cent out of that. So there is remaining 1 cent of sales tax increment available within the city of San Marcos. And obviously, if those dollars are captured by the county or Sandag, they will be spread out throughout that jurisdiction. If you capture them with a local sales tax increment in the form of a half cent or 1 cent local sales tax measure like this one, those dollars would all stay here.
I have, and my apologies, but I have a related question to that specifically. So my understanding is that, and I understand that this is a snapshot in time and it's not a crystal ball, but my understanding is that there are already a number of ballots that are approved to be on the November ballot, and we're likely to see an increase in those ballots. And my understanding is that there might be some countywide ballots that might impact our city. Has that been looked at or considered? And you don't need to speak, but that is one of the questions that I have.
Sorry,
in terms of the ability to capture less or more, and how we would consider that.
Councilmember, I have a clarifying question on that. Are you talking about, when you say ballot, you're saying ballot measure, correct? So a tax?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
thank you
I
for
just-
that.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
my apologies if there's any confusion.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The only one that I know for sure that has qualified so far, that's officially qualified, is the one I referenced a moment ago, that's a citizen initiative that would generate transportation infrastructure funding.
Sandag 2.0, yeah.
Yeah, and that measure has qualified and would be a half cent sales tax increment. I don't know of any other measures that there are state measures that may be qualified, but state measures don't generally represent tax increases. Even if it's a state bond, that does not represent borrowing against the taxpayer. That comes out of the general fund for the state. So those are sort of apples and oranges. Now, there may be other local jurisdictions looking at measures. That happens, but they, like you, will be on the same timeline where they have to make final decisions in the summer.
Okay, my next question is, staff provided us information about a sales tax generation analysis that had been done. And so can you explain to our audience what that basically told us?
Yes, we contracted with HDL, our sales tax consultant, to do an analysis on resident versus non-resident tax. And what that study determined was that 40% of the sales tax that is paid in San Marcos and comes to San Marcos is generated by outside residents. So that was a significant, they call it a leakage report, but that resident versus non-resident sales tax report demonstrated a significant amount of our dollars coming from non-San Marcos residents. And then, of course, 100% of that revenue would stay in San Marcos while being paid for by 40% outside people.
Okay, and so that brings another question. Do we know what the average leakage is?
I posed that question to HDL, and I have not heard back yet, but I do
Okay.
have Donna Apar, our finance director, with us, just in case she has any updates. I don't believe they got back. No, not
Okay,
yet.
will you let us know?
Yes.
Okay.
Unless Jared or Tim happen, no.
Okay. So some of the speakers tonight talked about going for the full cent. Can you explain the difference in revenue between a half cent and a full cent?
Yes, I think probably the easiest analogy to just keep it simple numbers. Right now, the city receives 1% of the tax increment, and our annual income from sales tax is about $20 million. So if we added a 1 cent sales tax, that would essentially double our sales tax from 20 million to 40 million. If we went for the half cent, it would be approximately, obviously, half of that. So we would bring in about 10 to 11 million at a half cent sales tax.
Okay. Let me see here. So based on your statistical review, do you think, because the question was a half cent, what do you think, should we consider 1 cent? Because everybody I spoke to, I've spoken to a lot of people in the community too, and they all said, why are you not going for it?
So we did not ask the 1 cent
Right.
in your survey, so I don't have any hard data within San Marcos. However, when we do these types of sales tax measures for a lot of cities, and oftentimes they are looking at either a 1 cent or a half cent, and they have polled on that. One of the interesting things about sales taxes is that voters tend not to be that rate sensitive when it comes to sales taxes. They are highly rate sensitive with other types of measures. So if you talked about like a utility user tax, going from say 3% to 4%, you get a big difference in how voters view that type of measure. Same thing with parcel taxes, going from $50 to $75, you know, the tax rate, they're very sensitive. Sales taxes, we typically see about a 2 to 3 point difference in support from when you were testing a 1 penny and you're testing a half a penny. So we tend to find a lot of cities when they're looking at that increment, they realize that since the level of support is quite similar for a half penny and a full penny, and their needs are such that they need the full penny, they go for the full penny. But again, I don't have that data here in San Marcos.
Right, right. Okay, and then something new that I heard was 10-year term. Can you explain that, or somebody?
That is an arbitrary number that the council would be able to set. The San Diego Taxpayers Association has suggested guidelines on what they like to see in a tax measure, and if we were seeking the support of the San Diego Taxpayers Association, they would like to see a sunset, but the council gets to determine whether you want to sunset, what the length of that sunset clause would be, or if you have one at all.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Let's see, you talked about the presidential year. So I kind of feel like we've done step 1. And so now we're at this next step of your chart, which, thank you for the chart. What are our next steps?
So
I guess that second column.
correct.
Okay.
So our next steps are, which are already a little bit underway, is working with city staff and, of course, legal counsel and outside counsel, as was mentioned. putting materials together in an easily accessible and transparent way for members of the public. Some of that will be posted on the website, as you had alluded earlier, but then also proactively getting out to community groups and organizations to present factual information and seek input and answer questions. We may get to the point where we even send some of that information out via direct mail so that, voters and residents who don't come to meetings still get a chance to kind of learn about it and say what they think. So that's really the next step, is sort of proactively getting that transparent public information out and really gathering that feedback and reflecting that feedback back up, to all of you, and obviously answering questions of the public as they arise.
Okay. And then, Michelle, this is definitely for you. So you asked us to give you names of anybody we wanted you to talk to in the community. Some of you are here tonight, so thank you. I gave her a list of about 30 names. She's almost done with all of them. And so can you give us a brief summary of what you've heard? Because it's not statistical, but you've talked to a number of key people in the community.
Yes, I guess that speaks to what the consultants were saying about the qualitative. Yes, I've had a great opportunity to meet with a long list of local residents, and we've had great conversations. And some of those conversations started out with a little bit of trepidation and concern about adding more tax, given the fact that I think we're all exhausted financially. And I don't know if it's a batting average, but at the moment, batting 1,000, everybody at the end of that conversation actually turned the tables on me a little bit, and more than 3/4 of those people responded with, "What are you doing?" And I thought, oh dear, well, my pitch didn't go well. What am I doing? I'm asking you for sales tax. And why are you asking for a 1/2 cent? You should be going for 1 cent. If you're going to go through all the trouble and put everybody through this, you should make sure that you're setting San Marcos up for the future. But 100% of the people that I've met with have been very positive and pro-maintaining the San Marcos services as we have them today. Nobody was inclined to recommend service cuts or lowering our standard of living.
Okay. Okay, good. So now I'm going to say my comments, then everybody else I'm sure has questions and comments. So like somebody who spoke up here, I too don't like new taxes. I'm talking personally. We've all talked about how Sandag spends their money. We've all talked about how the state spends our tax dollars. So it creates some pause in thinking. But as a leader, it's clear that San Marcos needs new revenue. We've determined that. If we want to continue, and many speakers spoke about this, if we want to continue the quality of life that we have, we're going to have to find new revenue or make a lot of reductions in expenses, and that's not going to give us a good quality of life. So many of us know that San Marcos is known to be fiscally responsible. Many leaders before us made great decisions to set us up for, we do things in a very entrepreneurial way. So they set us up in a positive place. We've been taking steps over the recent years to deal with budgets. We knew it was coming. We're not alone. A lot of public agencies are dealing with the situation. But my big thing is, and we talk about this all the time, is I think we should control our future. Public safety, we pride ourselves, we talk all the time about our public safety. Our law enforcement and our firefighters. And these funds will help us probably improve our response time, and will help us grow the law enforcement that we probably need to do at some point here. I think as leaders that I don't want to kick this down the road to somebody else to figure it out. I think we're here. We need to be responsible. We need to figure it out. The additional sales tax money can't be taken by the state, like our redevelopment money, which was, I'm thinking $20+ million.
Oh, that was just one payment.
Okay, so the state took all that money away. They can't take this away from us. We keep it here. And then, you know, we talk all the time about that we don't like people outside of San Marcos telling us what to do. We think we know enough to run San Marcos. And we also talk about the San Marcos Way. And so the San Marcos Way is not written down anywhere. But the San Marcos Way, in my opinion, is to do the right thing. And I think the right thing in this situation is for staff to continue to do the research, give us all the facts. So thankfully, I'm finally wrapping this up, everyone. So my direction would be that I want staff to continue to move forward, give us as many facts as possible about the revenue, and I too think we should go for the 1 cent sales tax. And I'm totally 100% behind this. I will do whatever it takes. So those are my questions and my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. This was a presentation. No, I was just going to say, this is a presentation, so I don't think we're actually giving direction, but thank you, Deputy Mayor. Appreciate that. Anyone else want to jump in? Yes, Councilmember Musgrove.
I'll be brief. I think it's very important to highlight the fact that this money does stay in town. If we vote for a tax and Sandag votes for a tax, we will likely not see much of any of that money. It's already programmed out in the 2021 and the 2025 plan to come. Most of it will go south of us. There will be fractions of pennies to placate, and it's not really what we should be doing. If we have the opportunity to work within our own city, to help our own city, benefit and keep that money here so that we can program it, I think that's a better way to go. And I've sat through my 4th goal-setting meeting, and they're really interesting because the council gets together and we're all given the opportunity to put together whatever items we think would benefit the city as a whole. We don't do it by district. We all represent a different district, but we work as a team. And so we put our ideas together, they're presented, we work through them, and it's interesting because none of them are pie-in-the-sky ideas. They are really ideas that would benefit our community, but over the course of several years, we've seen the available funds just grow, more and more diminished to the point where now we're looking to keep our budget. We have to balance that budget. We're not the federal government where we just print more money, call it a day. We have to balance that budget. So if we dip into reserves to do that, that doesn't really give us any latitude to do anything other than keep our heads above water. And that's not really a good way to run the community. And I say we, I'm talking really about our staff here. They work tirelessly to keep a lot of the operations that we all enjoy working without really imparting some of the pain that comes with that to the residents. It's not that headache you share. It's part of the burden that we take on here. And if we have an opportunity to benefit the community as a whole, I think this is the best time to do it. This is not to wait around to see where other people take that slice of the pie and then we're left with no options. So as the Deputy Mayor said, I'm in favor of it. We're not taking a vote tonight, but I think it's the best way that we could move forward to ensure some solvency in the years to come, increase our public safety, public works, parks and recreation. And as I tell people when they ask, what would interest you? I tell them, just look around you. The things you see every day are the things we should be working on. Our streets, our infrastructure, our recreational activities, the things that make this a great city. It is the support system that needs to be supported, and I think this is the way we're going to do it. Thank you.
Councilmember, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. And I concur with the comments that has already been made by my colleagues, so I won't repeat them. But I do want to thank everybody who came out today and voiced your opinion. It's very important that we hear from you, and that's really what tonight is all about, is getting the information from our experts and our consultants, and then hearing from our community. I did have 2 questions that I don't think were raised yet, and so I just want to clarify. And I know, Michelle, you had provided this information, I think, at previous workshops, but can you give us some of the benchmarking information with our neighboring cities as to where their sales tax currently stands versus where we currently stand?
Yes, I don't have that sheet with me, but Donna is a genius and can
And
probably
I
pull it up.
apologize. I should have sent those, I should have did what the deputy mayor did, but I did not. I'm sorry.
There are a few cities like us who have not added local sales tax increment. Just top of mind, Vista comes to mind. They have a ½ sales tax currently. Chula Vista, I believe, has 2 ½ sales tax for a total of 1. Oceanside has a ½ I know other neighbors like Encinitas are moving forward with most likely putting a 1 cent on the ballot. Oceanside's renewing their current sales tax. Escondido is looking at a citizens initiative. I believe Santee is looking at a citizens initiative. Any of the others at a 1 cent? National City? Del Mar and National City. Yeah, Del Mar and National City have a 1 cent sales tax.
Thank you. I think that's helpful, and I think it speaks volumes to the fiscal responsibility that prior city councils have had in San Marcos, certainly our staff, current and previous, and it really shows that San Marcos as a community has been able to, through this fiscal responsibility, keep our tax rate as low as we possibly could for as long as we possibly could. But I think it's also pretty logical to understand that the city is not immune to the inflationary pressures that everybody, every business and every individual is facing. And we're no different. As a city, we have labor costs, we have gasoline, vehicles, electricity. We purchase all of the same things that businesses and individuals do, and we face the same inflationary pressures that everybody else does. And so thank you for that. And I'm glad to hear that there's other cities that have gone before us with this. I do have a question about kind of the data and the process for our consultants. So your initial, as you call it, your initial sampling of questions for the community, it did focus on a ½ cent, and it did focus on a 10-year sunset period. If that were to change, either a longer sunset or no sunset, or a one penny versus a ½ penny, does that change the data? Does that require any additional steps?
So, as I mentioned, we didn't test 1 cent, so if you were to make the decision to go to 1 cent, we're sort of stepping into uncharted waters here in San Marcos. But when I've done that in other cities and we've looked at 1 penny versus a ½ cent, you tend to see a pretty small difference in support for that. So, going higher is going to drop your support level a bit, but typically for sales tax, not a lot. 2-3 points is pretty typical. Sunsets are a different animal. There's something that, for the most part, voters don't pay that much attention to when they're looking at a measure like this. They tend to look at what is it going to fund and how much is it going to cost me. They don't tend to naturally look at the sunset, except for sometimes if you were to go in perpetuity, that can be something that can catch their attention and catch the attention of outside folks who look at that and say, that's too much, right? So the duration thing is something that is difficult to test in a poll because in some ways it doesn't accurately simulate what actually happens during the election cycle. So the real question becomes how much attention gets focused on the sunset, right? If a lot of attention gets focused on the sunset, it sort of artificially inflates that issue in voters' minds when they're sort of deciding what they want to do.
Okay. Thank you, that's helpful.
Yeah.
And just one other comment, not necessarily for the consultants, but I am certainly open. I know we're not here to give direction, but I'm open-minded to moving forward with this. I agree with everything that the speaker said, and I want to thank them again for coming out. I do disagree with a couple of the speakers who had indicated that we have a tough decision to make tonight, or a tough decision to make in the future. I just want to say, from my perspective, I don't think it's ever a tough decision to give the people of San Marcos a voice. And so that's really what we're considering tonight. And I'm open-minded to it. And I think as we go through this process, I could definitely get behind this.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Nunez.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of comments. I don't want to reiterate a lot of what's been said, but first I do want to also thank our residents, all our public speakers. It's been very insightful, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here and listen to the information and really share your thoughts and your history, long history here in our city. And like so many of you, I've grown up in this city. I wasn't born here, but I've lived here most of my life, so I've seen the city grow, and I've seen the changes that Tanis spoke of, and I've lived that myself. I also see sort of the inequities and a lot of what is missing from this city. And so one of the things that stands out for me, and one of the themes that I keep hearing over and over, is how grateful we all are to live in this city and the resources that this city has provided to so many of us. And I am so also grateful to hear that our residents want to preserve that. And not only preserve it, but make sure that it continues, not only for us that are here, but for the future generations. So I am very grateful to hear that. For one, I have to say that for those of you that we had one-on-one conversations, I am not surprised to see, right, the test results that were shared today. I wasn't privy to any of them, but I'm not surprised. I think it really is consistent with what we see in our city and our residents and the quality of life that we do have and that we want to not only continue but improve on. And I'm definitely in favor of that. I'm also in favoring of continuing this and whatever direction is needed to make sure that we proceed. And then I do want to add to the request of our deputy mayor that all of this information be made available for all of our residents to see. And then my other question is, I'm not sure if there's other information that our consultants have that could possibly share in that public forum for our residents to also see. So with that, thank you for all the work that's been done.
Were you going to respond to that? I'm sorry.
Yes, we'll be working very closely with our consultants. I think I have a 7:30 a.m. date with Jared tomorrow. So I will
boy,
find
aren't
out.
you lucky? Okay, so, you know, this is my 18th year in office in San Marcos. It's been a lot of ups and downs in our city as far as, you know, a pandemic, slowdowns in the economy. But always the most important things to me have always been quality of life, safety, which is part of quality of life, and then also fiscal responsibility. We have done so many things so right for many generations of our leadership in this city. It's been an interesting thing to see how our San Marcos Way has affected things and how we've been able to maneuver and handle things so nimble on our feet, as our past city manager used to say. But tonight is really not about decisions. It's about getting the information. It's about listening to what our residents have said. We are in a process. The process is going to get more feedback, and I would implore us to make sure that we have the easiest way for us to get feedback from our residents. I mean, at the street fairs that the chamber puts on our website, which isn't always easy to maneuver, but to have a button on that front page where people could just click on it because they hear about this and they want to hear our feedback. In all of our social media, all the ways that we normally engage people, I want to make sure we actually up that a bit, because we do need to hear from our residents, and we need to make sure that we are listening to them. You know, looking at just a sales tax in general, which I am opposed to in some ways, because I think that, Sandag is a perfect example of that. We have a 50-cent sales tax we've been paying on since 2004, and, you know, we don't even have the environmental done on our 78 freeway, which was one of the top things that was supposed to be done. So I have a problem with that. I think also, one of the, I actually need to look this up. On the second step here, it talks about the awareness building, and seeking feedback is one of the main goals of that. But it's also refining the proposal, and refining the proposal, I think, would also have a discussion of having oversight. I think oversight is, if the residents vote for something like this, I think having the resident oversight is very key to people having a comfort level that we are doing the right thing with their money. The other thing is that I would like to mention is, I actually looked it up as you were talking about this, Councilmember Sanella. There are 9 cities out of 18 that have sales taxes currently. Chula Vista has 1 cent, Del Mar has 1 cent, El Cajon 1/2 cent, Imperial Beach 1 cent, La Mesa 3/4, National City 1 cent, Oceanside 1/2 cent, Solana Beach 1 cent, and Vista 1/2 cent. And many of those are either re-upping, and there are other cities on top of that that are actually out looking. I always talk about the unfunded mandates and how much I dislike that. Things have changed in the last 5 years, 10 years even. Of the 3 things that I talk about, the quality of life, public safety, and then fiscal responsibility, we now have the added mandates from the state and loss of local control, where we have to do more with the same amount. And, in some cases it becomes less, because when you have cities like ours, which I don't know if anyone even knows this, but when you're talking about general fund, a lot of that money comes from your sales tax, but also your property tax. Out of the property tax, out of 18 cities plus the county, we actually have the lowest share of that by quite a bit. You have cities like the city of Coronado, where they tend to have higher values on top of this, but they get about 33 cents out of every dollar. The city of San Marcos gets right around 7 cents out of every dollar. So it is a lot of challenging circumstances we have financially. So we are in the process of moving forward. I mean, we're not giving direction, but I think it's important that we do get our feedback, and I think making sure that we are on the awareness building, the non-advocacy communication, the informational mailers, digital ads, internal and external audiences, community groups need to be reached out. We need to get as much feedback as possible. And I did want to make mention of the San Marcos Youth Baseball discussion. We do need to make sure that all of our stakeholders within the community do give us our feedback, because all of the things that we're covering, if the residents are to vote for this, I think needs to include the part about our kids as well, because they are our future. And as one of our, Justin Matsushitsa had said, he's a generational, resident here in San Marcos. And, he wants his kids to stay here. And everyone wants their kids to be able to stay local, but you need to make sure that you have those services for them too. So anyway, we will be moving forward with this. I would like us to refine the proposal, taking the feedback, making sure that we are hearing from all groups, including our sports groups, and then also just making sure that we are listening to everyone. And it's easy for them to give us their response and what they're thinking about the community and what they would like to see. Because if the residents vote for it, we should darn well give them what they want, and it shouldn't be like Sandag, where we say, yes, you're going to get this, and then it doesn't really matter, we're going to change direction. I would like to ensure that there's no way to change the direction of what the residents vote for, if they are to vote for this. So that would be my feedback. And were you going to say something, Deputy Mayor?
Are you done?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
She brought up a good point, and that is, at maybe one of our future workshops, would you give us the numbers on how much unfunded mandates are coming out of our budget? I think that would be a good number to have, so you could maybe.
I don't know the
bring
number,
that.
but I know it's a lot. Yeah.
Do you know the number now?
The finance director and I were actually chatting this afternoon. There are some ways to track the unfunded mandates, and then there's the death by 1,000 cuts version of the mandates. It's hard to quantify what a report costs in staff time. That is, like our consent calendar, for instance, there's a report on there today that wasn't required until 2019 of charter cities. So we can take a really good stab at it and maybe list all the layers of bureaucracy and change and demand on staff that have been layered. But I'm probably not going to be able to give you a good round number.
Okay, but you can give us some general ideas of, say, what's happened in the last 10 years
Yes,
with
we
some of
can
these
give-
things, roughly, or 5 years,
Give it our
whatever.
best shot.
Okay, and then that brings up another point. If anybody's interested, our next budget workshop is April 11th at 2 o'clock. So if anybody wants to come to that and hear facts again, that would be a good workshop to attend.
Okay, any further discussion from the council? Okay, if not, we will actually move on to the consent calendar then. Yeah, anyway, thank you everyone for coming, and again, thank you for the discussion and the feedback. We appreciate it. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar. Do any council members wish to pull any of the 7 items?
Move to approve tonight's consent calendar.
Wow, you just really want to hurry up there, don't you? Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Okay, seeing none. Oral communications. Do we have any speakers? Yes. Okay. I'm going to trade you those for those. Thank you much. Okay. First speaker will be Heidi Lotito, followed by Sina Harns, followed by Bella Tiacanono. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I think I am. Sorry. Your writing's actually beautiful, but sorry, I can't really. Okay, so Heidi's first. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry about that, Heidi.
Well, this is very timely that I came tonight because I'm here to plead for public safety. I went through an incident yesterday that was very disturbing. I'm a disabled senior in my 60s, and I am very slow now because I have a progressive disease. So I adopted a 14-year-old dog that weighs 7 pounds that's got a progressive disease, so we're the same pace. So I walk him down in San Elijo Hills every day by the fountain. I go behind Albertsons and then right by the middle school, the San Elijo Middle School. It's just a path we take every day. And yesterday I was almost run over by some kids on an e-bike. And when I yelled, hey, I couldn't see them coming because they were coming up from behind me, right by the middle school, San Elijo Middle School. And when I yelled, hey, one of the kids on the bike turned around and yelled, I wish we had hit and killed your dog. And they rode past me to the stoplight, went across the street. I crossed the street and they were there waiting for me. And they verbally just shredded me, called me every name in the book for no reason, except that I was walking my dog down the street and I was in their way. And they wouldn't leave me alone. They stayed there and they called me horrible things repeatedly. And when I said, I'm going to call the police, they said, go ahead and call the police because they won't touch us. So the police, I told them I would meet them at the Starbucks across the street from the fountain in San Elijo. And I went there and the kids came. And there were probably 20 of them. They stood there and they verbally assaulted me, and there was no place for me to go. I just stood there and had to take it. I reached for my phone so that I could take some pictures or video them, and one of the kids said, if you get out your phone, I'm going to press charges against you. And he was so close to me that I put my phone in my pocket because I was too afraid to do anything at that point. I am disabled, so I'm not quick like I used to be, and I didn't know what to do. So when the police came, one kid yelled, she's got a gun, and everybody took off. And I went and greeted the police officer who said there really wasn't a lot that they could do, but that they were trying to have officers there to patrol the area more when the kids get out of school, which I'm pleading with you to do. I won't go down there anymore. I feel sad. I don't feel safe to go shopping at Albertsons, my own grocery store down the street. But I don't. All these people are talking about how wonderful this city is, and I feel so horrible coming to you and telling you I'm sad about a situation I went through, and I don't feel safe. They wanted to kill my 7-pound dog. So what I'm asking you is, I've heard that people are thinking about licensing. I don't see how that will help. These children we're pretty much giving them car keys. They're driving motorized vehicles and they don't care. They just don't care. And so I am pleading with you to pass that sales tax so that we can get some police officers down there so I feel like I can go to the grocery store or go to Starbucks and get a cup of coffee. Thank you.
Heidi, I just want to say thank you for coming and thank you for voicing your concerns. And, you know, I actually personally have heard about some issues in the town center as well. We are working on a solution. Our captain is here tonight, and I know he'd be happy. He's right in the back, Captain Ralph. I know he'd be happy to talk to you and you know, help you and figure out how we can help you, because we don't want you to feel that way. Your safety is our, you know, safety is our number one concern actually in this city, and I don't want you to feel like you can't go where you want to go.
These kids wouldn't leave me alone.
I know. I'm hearing what you're saying, and I just want you to know. Just please, before you leave, please go talk to our captain. I know he'd be happy to go outside with you. He's nodding in the back, by the way. So if you just could meet him outside, he'll discuss with you our upcoming things we're working on and how we're going to help you.
Yes, I was really pleased to come in tonight to hear about the proposal for the tax, because I think that it's really something that's necessary. Because, you know, I'm not just speaking for disabled seniors. I'm speaking for anybody that's, you know, comes in contact with something like this and feels afraid.
No, it's not okay. It's not okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, next up is Senna Harris, followed by Bella, and then Jay Petrick will be after that. Oh, wait, are the two of you together?
Yes.
Okay, so is it Senna and Bella?
Yes.
Okay, hello, girls.
Hi, my name is Senna Harris. And I'm Bella Takio. And we're members of the Youth Advocacy Coalition at Mission Hills High School. Thank you, City of San Marcos, Mayor Rebecca Jones, and the City Council for hosting the Feel Our Grief Community Forum on opioid overdose loss. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. The forum will be at 5:30 next Monday, March 18th, in the San Marcos Community Center, which is the next building over from this one, and we would certainly appreciate any help you could give us in promoting the Feel Our Grief Forum. We left flyers on the table by the door and hope everyone here picks one up and comes to the event. Thank you again. Thank you. And we
Thank
also
you.
have flyers to pass out to you guys as well.
Okay, well, you know, I will be there because I'm actually going to do a greeting. So yes, definitely will be there. And thank you very much, ladies, for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Oh, okay. You could just pass those to Phil, and he will get those to us. Phil Skolick, Mr. Skolick. Thank you. Okay, next up, Jay Petrick, followed by Antonia Montoya. And then after Antonia, it will be Angelica.
Hi, my name is Jay Petrick, and I'm here to raise awareness about a community cleanup event that's being coordinated with Project Next. Project Next is the nonprofit organization that runs future centers at our local high schools that gives students career and college guidance on their future steps. So 6,200 emails were sent out with this flyer, both in Spanish and in English, advertising to students opportunities for a 2-hour community service credit for participation in this cleanup event. What students need to do is basically go out and find a safe place in a public area where they can find trash on the ground along streets, trails, or open space areas and waterways, etc. Clean it up during a 2-hour time frame between now and April 5th of 2024. They're to bring their own trash bags, their own gloves and equipment to pick up the trash. And then after their 2 hours out in the field, they're to take a selfie or have a friend snap pictures and post it on social media, locating where the trash that they picked up to document their efforts. And then they properly dispose of the trash after the cleanup. There's a voucher at the bottom of this flyer that has an opportunity for them to sign their name, the location where they did the cleanup, and an adult that verifies their service. And then they take this voucher to the Future Center at their high school where they'll be entered into a drawing. There'll be a laptop that will be raffled off and other valuable prizes. We have 3 stellar community service organizations and businesses in the community that are supporting this. They're each donating $1,000 for Project Next. That's the EDCO Services, Vallecillos Water District, and BN Builders. So they're each donating $1,000 to Project Next for their programs. So it's really a win-win-win situation. Students get to win by getting 2 hours of community service. San Marcos gets to win by being a little bit cleaner. And Project Next gets to win by having a little bit more money to run their great programs at the high schools. Thank you very much.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
Don't run off. Have you spoken to EDCO if they would provide like a dumpster at the high schools so that when the kids, I mean, where are they going to take all that extra trash? We
Well,
want them
the
to have
thought
a
here
spot
is that if they go out individually, they have between now and a whole month to do
Okay.
this 2 hours of service.
Okay.
So they could probably even take the trash back to their house and dump it in their own.
Okay.
Their
But if they
own
live in
homes.
multifamily, that might not be a thing. Can they take it to EDCO? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know on the top of my head.
All right, my suggestion would be that you work with the school district to get the information out to the kids, but if you work with EDCO and find out what they might be able to do to assist, only because in some of the apartments, you might not have enough room for extra trash, so you might, especially if the kids are doing a really good job, and they're doing it like in groups, you might want to check with them to see if they could drop it off at the trash center right there on Las Posas.
Okay.
Or if maybe they would provide a dumpster or 2 here and there. I know they do like political sign donations here.
Right,
So
right.
maybe something along those lines. I don't know.
I'll
I'm just
check back with
brainstorming.
EDCO.
Yeah.
Yes,
All
yes.
right, thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thanks. Okay, after that, it's going to be Antonia Montoya, followed by Angelica Santiago, and then Maria Mendoza. Yes, okay, so since we are having the translation this evening, how about if you could just let her know, do a short thing, and then you could translate, and we'll make sure you have plenty of time.
Lo que vamos a hacer el día de hoy es que tiene que hablar en pausas para que
Sí.
se pueda llevar a cabo toda la
Thank you.
interpretación.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Antonia Montoya y estoy aquí con el motivo
Good evening, my name is Antonia Montoya and the reason why I'm here tonight
Can you
de
pull the
tener
mic
una
down,
solución.
please? Thank you.
is to have a solution or resolve
de una relocación. No tenemos ninguna respuesta
because to this point we have no answer.
y ya estamos todos muy tensos, todos los vecinos también porque pues no tenemos todavía un apartamento.
And all of us and neighbors are all with a lot of tension because we do not have an apartment to this point.
Cuando nos ofrecieron los $5,000, nunca pensamos que ese dinero no iba a ser suficiente para nosotros tener que movernos a agarrar un apartamento.
When they offered us the $5,000, we didn't think that would be enough, that it wouldn't be enough for us to move from one apartment to another place.
A diferentes personas que estamos viviendo ahí, muchos tenemos ya muchos años ahí, otros tenemos menos, pero a todos nos ofrecieron la misma cantidad de los $5,000.
So there's many of us that have lived there for quite a long time, as well as newcomers, and we were offered the same $5,000 to move out.
Y no es suficiente para movernos y no tenemos ninguna ayuda todavía. Estamos todavía esperando la relocación.
And it's not enough money, neither is it enough for us to live anywhere, and we're still waiting for the relocation with no answer to this point.
Y por eso mismo estoy aquí pidiendo otra vez la ayuda con ustedes y pues como alcaldesa que es de aquí de San Marcos y su grupo, pues que nos escuchen, porque ese día que estuvieron allí en San Marcos, ellos se pusieron ahí, Cris, muy amable y todo.
Despacio, por favor. So I am here one more time to ask you, Lady Mayor and your team, that you help us, because the day that we were there with Chris,
Pero de eso a que haya una realidad todavía no la tenemos.
well, from that meeting to this day, we have no, there's no answer.
Ya estamos desesperados, todos los que estamos ahí, que no tenemos respuesta, y por eso estoy aquí con todos mis vecinos.
That is why we are all overwhelmed with the same situation. This is why we're here again. Well, I'm here with my neighbors to see you once more.
Y pues yo se los agradezco a ustedes que nos están escuchando, pero también queremos su ayuda de ustedes, el apoyo.
I'm grateful that we're here and you listen to us. We need your help and your support.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that you have met one-on-one with Chris over at Villa Serena, at National Corp.
Quiero asegurarme que usted se ha reunido con Chris y National Corp.
Simplemente ayer habló mi hija con él y le dijo que qué solución tiene, que si ya tiene un apartamento, como yo soy una persona ya de 66 años.
My daughter actually had a conversation with Chris yesterday about, maybe having a possible apartment or somewhere for me to go. I'm, 66.
Y dice, no, todavía no.
And he said, no, not yet.
Okay, so I want to make sure, because I did get an update, we actually all got an update. 10 families have found a place, 23 families are in the review process, and then 23 are also still seeking new housing, so I'm imagining she falls under that category.
Entonces, la última noticia que yo tuve actualizada es que 10 familias ya encontraron lugar, 23 están en proceso y 23 están en solicitud. Me imagino que usted ya está en alguno de esos.
Pues yo ya fui a aplicar a varios y ya le fui a hablar varias veces a él a la oficina.
I have applied to several places and I have tried to speak to him several times.
Pero la mayoría de las personas que se han movido, ellas se han movido, han buscado por su cuenta, no porque han sido relocadas por él.
But the people that have found places to go to is because they have found them by themselves. It's not because they've been relocated by him.
Porque yo les he preguntado.
Because I have asked them.
Dice, no, yo he buscado.
And they have told me, no, I've looked.
Pero para mí, que yo soy una persona ya de una pensión, yo le dije a él, mi pensión no me alcanza para un apartamento de 1,500.
But for me, I'm retired and I live with, my retirement. To do a rental of 1,500 is impossible.
A donde quiera que he ido a los apartamentos son de 1,500, 1,800.
Wherever I've been, they're 1,500 to 1,800.
Por eso mismo yo estoy esperando y le estoy hablando y estoy presentándome con él.
This is why, I come and I show myself and I try to talk to him.
Porque yo si tuviera la posibilidad de irme a un apartamento de 1,500 como antes que podía, yo ya me hubiera movido, no hubiera estado esperando que me relocaran, pero en mi posibilidad no está.
If I've had the ability to move like I did before when I was making more money, then I would have done it. I wouldn't be waiting for any relocation, but I can't afford 1,500.
Okay, so I have a question. Did Chris say that he would not meet with her because she said tried to, but hasn't actually met with him? Did he refuse or?
Entonces, ahorita que usted dijo que ha tratado de hablar con él, ¿Usted ha tratado y él no ha tratado de hablar con usted?
Sí, sí ha hablado, pero dice que no tiene nada.
Yeah, I've talked to him, but he says there's nothing available.
Yo ya tengo todas las cajas que he estado empacando de mis cosas
I
y
have
todo,
all my boxes together,
pero todavía no me da una solución.
but I still don't have a solution.
Okay, so she has filled out applications, but has not yet found anything?
Pero sí ha hecho llenado
Sí, ya
solicitudes
está
y no
lle-
encuentra nada.
Sí, ya hasta llevé lo que a mí me manda mi seguro.
Yeah, I even have proof of what I received from my insurance.
Y ya él ya le hablaron y le dijeron que ya había metido aplicación.
And they have spoken to him and with him, and they, they have told him that there's been an application.
Okay. So you need to keep working with Chris. You need to go and see him on a regular basis because because he's assisting you, you're part of assisting to make that happen as well.
La cosa es de que usted tiene que continuar hablando con él, citándose con él, porque él es asistente, pero usted
Sí.
también es parte de la asistencia.
Sí, por eso lo estoy haciendo.
Yes, and that's why I'm
Ajá.
doing it.
Y a mí
Yes.
lo que más me urge es mi salud, porque mi vista me la tienen que operar desde enero, ya cancelé ahora en febrero porque tengo que estar
My
tranquila.
biggest concern is my health because I have issues with my sight and I have been postponing my surgery, from February and this and that.
Ya no puedo estar esperando porque mi vista es la que está en peligro.
I can't wait because, my sight is in danger.
Well, I'm not going to give any medical advice because I can't do that. I would suggest you go and talk to Chris tomorrow and explain to him that you need to have surgery and find out where you're at in the process.
Entonces, yo no le puedo resolver nada en cuanto a situaciones médicas, pero sí
No.
le sugiero que hable con Chris mañana y le diga el detalle de lo de su vista para ver qué pueden hacer para ayudarla.
Oh, muchas gracias, muy amables.
Okay,
Se los
thank you so very
agradezco.
much. I'm very thankful.
Thank
Great.
you, thank you.
Bye.
Take good care of yourself.
Cuídese.
Okay. Okay, next is Angelica Santiago Maria Mendoza. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is Mendoza. And then Alexis Salgado will be next.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon, Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Angelica Santiago, and I am here with 13 residents. Not all of them will be speaking tonight for many reasons. And I do work with Universidad Popular, which we're here in Autumn Drive, and we have a lot of exciting events happening in the near future. But anyhow, I am here once again to speak and support our residents from District 1, from Villa Serena. So I do thank you all for your time and for being able to listen. Like how our first speakers mentioned, the city of San Marcos is such a beautiful place. We want to live here. We want to continue to live here. We want to have our children here. And I think our residents are echoing that same feeling. That's why they're here. They've been here for the past 2 months, advocating for their rights, right, to have that support. They want to have that quality of life that others do have here. We understand that relocation has happened, will happen, right, in the future is happening. So my ask, once again, would be that process. Like, how can we improve that process? It looks like this process hasn't been working well for many of our residents. So we want to make sure to, to oversee in the future and currently right now. Affordable housing, once again, a huge issue, a very need. It was noted in the data as well. I know we've been speaking to a lot of community members, focus groups, and it's the same thing. Affordable housing, housing need, they love the community. And I do ask too, I know it was mentioned, I believe, in one of our first conversations about like a workshop on tenant rights. I think that's a good idea to bring to limit the confusion, to understand the language. I myself, I don't understand a lot of this language, so I do need someone to explain it to me. And I think it's very crucial to have this conversation so we can all get our all of our questions answered. So once again, thank you so much for your time, and please listen to our residents. They're here to echo their voice. and hopefully we get a solution for them. Gracias.
Thank you. Keep pushing it on and off. Maria Mendoza, followed by Alexis Salgado, followed by, those folks don't want to speak. Natalie Martinez, and then Irma will be after that. Hi, Maria.
Hi, I need transfer.
Oh, she's coming. Oh, while she's coming, there are a few folks that did not want to speak this evening, but I will mention their names. Leila and Maria Mendoza, Elizabeth Santos, Ernesta Flores, Irma Raimundo, Otavio Carrillo, and Irene Carrillo.
Muy buenas noches,
Good evening,
alcaldesa y miembros del consejo.
Mayor and members of the council.
Mi nombre es María Mendoza,
My name is Maria Mendoza.
residente de Villa Serena.
I'm a resident of Villa Serena.
La razón por la que vine hoy es para pedirles el apoyo para que si pueden llamar a los departamentos de bajos ingresos.
The reason why I'm here is because I would like to ask you for assistance in calling the
Los
the
departamentos.
apartments of low cost income.
Porque ustedes nos otorgaron a los residentes una carta individual,
Because you gave us a letter, an independent or individual letter,
pero ellos no la están respetando. Dicen que no han recibido ninguna instrucción por parte de la ciudad para saltarse la lista de espera.
but they're telling us that they haven't received any orders from the city so that we can be on the list.
Yo tengo los nombres de los tres departamentos de diferentes nombres que he ido a buscar.
I have the different names of the apartments where I've done my research or go to talk to them.
Que me han dicho que no pueden saltarse la lista de espera porque no han recibido nada de ustedes.
And they cannot jump the list, the waiting list, because they haven't received any orders from you.
Yo se lo pensaba dar hoy a la señora Silvia, que es la encargada de vivienda, tengo entendido.
I was going to give
La información.
This information to Sylvia because I think she's the one in charge of that.
Es todo, gracias.
And that's it. Thank you. Oh,
Disculpen,
Sorry.
también necesito decirles que todos los residentes estamos muy preocupados porque ya solamente nos quedan 49 días.
and I also want to tell you that all the residents are very concerned because we now only have 49 days left
Para ser reubicados.
so that we can be relocated.
Yo el día de hoy fui a buscar al señor Chris a su oficina, que se supone que debería de estar para ayudarnos y no está, y me dijeron que probablemente no va a estar por las próximas 2 semanas.
Today I went looking for Chris, and several people of us, wanted to talk to him, but he was not in the office, and I was told that he won't be there for about 2 more weeks.
En mi caso personal estoy muy preocupada porque voy a tener una intervención en la mano.
In my personal case, I am concerned because I'm going to have surgery on my hand.
Y la estoy postergando porque no me voy a poder mover y con una cirugía en la mano.
And I'm also postponing it because I'm not going to be able to move with a surgery in my hand.
Es todo. Muchas gracias por escucharme.
Thank you again for listening to me.
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you for coming and speaking.
Gracias
Can we
por
have
estar aquí,
Sylvia
hablar
reach
con
out
nosotros.
to National Core?
Podemos tener
Yeah,
contacto
And
con
if
National
Chris is
Court.
indeed out of office for 2 weeks, can we confirm that and then find out if there's a backup for him it's a horrible time to be gone for 2 weeks.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Sí, absolutamente.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this speaker slip and I'm going to give it to Phil and his team. And then I want you to give your phone number, and then we need that list so that we can have Sylvia follow up on that, okay? I'm going to do that right now.
Respondiendo a lo que dijo el señor,
Answering to you.
La respuesta que me dieron es que me podía atender Cintia, pero no puede tomar decisiones, sino que le tienen que informar a Chris.
I was told that I could always contact Cynthia, but that the decisions have to be done by Chris.
Yeah, we will find that out. I don't believe that's the case. That's not what I was told today. So I need you to give your phone number to Phil and Destiny, and then we will have Sylvia reach out to you, but we need that list that you said that the folks were not knowing that you were on a priority list with us, that we're assisting in that.
Muchísimas gracias.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Alexis, followed by Natalie, and then it will be Irma.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Alexis Salgado
Good evening, my name is Alexis Salgado.
y una vez más me encuentro aquí con el mismo motivo de todos los vecinos.
And I'm here one more time with the issues with my neighbors.
Y antes que todo les quería dar las gracias a todos por la vez pasada que fueron a la junta, que nos acompañaron con Chris.
Before I start, I would like to extend my gratefulness for you being at the meeting that we had with Chris.
Lo que, igual que los vecinos, estamos pidiendo que tomen más en serio el caso de lo que está pasando, no ustedes, sino los de Villa Serena.
Same thing is that we would like, not you, but for Villa Serena to take this more in consideration and make it a more serious matter.
Porque de igual manera hoy contacté a alguna vecina que tenía su cita el día de hoy y le dijeron lo mismo, que Chris iba a estar hasta el 27 que tenemos la próxima junta.
Today I was able to talk to one of my neighbors and she said that she was told the same thing, that Chris would be out of town and that would be until the 27th and that's when we have our meeting.
Y de igual manera como la vez pasada que ustedes asistieron a la junta,
Just like the last time when you were there in our meeting,
fue el equipo de Chris que nunca estaba ahí.
Chris showed up with his team, but the team is never present.
Mi pregunta es, me gustaría que el dueño de Villa Serena se juntara con nosotros y que escuche en realidad lo que está pasando.
I would like to actually have the owner of Villa Serena to come and listen to what's going on.
Y si eso fuera posible, que ustedes nos pudieran acompañar otra vez.
And if it could be possible that you would be present at the same time.
Porque también entiendo que ellos mandaron un reporte de que han reubicado ciertas personas.
Because I believe there was a report sent that with the relocation of certain people,
Pero eso es mentira.
but it's a lie.
Porque varios vecinos que viven así a 2, 3 casas mías se fueron por su propia cuenta porque no los ayudan y ya les entró la angustia.
Because neighbors that are kind of like 2 or 3 apartments away from me, I've talked to them and they have moved themselves because they've been waiting for the promises to come true and nothing has happened.
Yo les agradezco por el tiempo que se toman de escucharnos a cada uno de ustedes.
I'm grateful to each one of you for listening to us.
Yo sé que el equipo de Villa Serena ve los videos
I know that Villa Serena or the team actually watches the videos.
y me gustaría que este mensaje llegue al dueño de los apartamentos.
And I would like for this message to go to the owner of the apartment.
Y una vez más, muchas gracias.
Again, one more time, thank you so much.
I did want to say one thing. I know Chris's boss, I can't say, he's not the owner of the apartments, but he is one of the executives of the apartments. He was there that night that I was there because I saw him and I spoke to him. And so I do know that he was there, and so I know that he listened to every single word because he was there when I left. After the discussion was all over. So I do know that he was there. And as far as Chris not being around, we will definitely get to the bottom of that and find out if that's the case. If Chris is not around, which I hadn't heard that at all, we will make sure that there is someone that is actively working on doing the job that Chris would do if he were around.
De igual manera, como lo mencionó la vecina,
Just as my neighbor said before,
deja a su asistente Cintia,
Cynthia is there as the assistant,
pero para tomar una decisión tienen que comunicarlo a él y
but
tienes que esperar más tiempo y pues esto urge.
decision, it has to go through him, and then you have to wait some more time. And
I hadn't heard anything about that, so we will get to the bottom of it. I know that tomorrow Sylvia will be working on this, reaching out to National Corps to get answers.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alexis, followed by Natalie. Wait, is that right? No, that was Alexis, but I thought your name was something else. Okay. Are you Alexis or Natalie? Natalie, okay. That's where I was confused, because I thought his name was something else. I remembered it wrong. Okay, I am getting up there in age. Followed by Irma.
No worries, it's been a while, so.
Thank you.
Good evening. It's nice to see you all again. My name is Natalie. I work with Universidad Popular, and I'm also here in support of the Villa Serena residents. So I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. Our resident, Antonia, she spoke at the last city council meeting, and there was a little tidbit that was lost in translation. And I remembered because we are sending our residents to Chris, so I think it's important to note that she mentioned at the last city council meeting that during one of the interactions that she had with him, he had an apartment available that was, I believe, $900, and she only receives $1,000 for her pension. And so that would only leave her with $100 for the rest of her expenses. And it got to the point that he asked her if she could live off of $100. So I think it's important to note that not everyone has the same interactions with Chris, the relocation manager. And so sending them, the residents, to Chris really isn't the same for everyone. A lot of the residents have expressed dissatisfaction with their interactions with him, and I think it's important to note. And I believe we've come to that conclusion given that we just found out he's going to be out for the next 2 weeks as well. I'd like to thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Nunez, for attending the residents' meeting. A lot of the residents expressed that Chris was on his best behavior that night because of your presence. I think it's important to note, given some of the residents' comments, that they are putting in their own effort to seek their own relocation. That's something the report doesn't cover. A lot of those relocations happened because the residents themselves took that initiative. And I'd also like to reiterate something that happened at the last city council meeting. One of the residents faced a line of questioning that was frankly disrespectful. It insinuated that she wasn't putting in her own effort to relocate her family. And given that this item isn't agendized, I don't think she deserved that line of questioning. But yes, thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Irma Raimundo. Irma? Is Irma still here, or did she leave? Irma Raimundo. Hi, Irma.
A ver, buenas tardes, Irma.
Buenas tardes a todos.
Good afternoon to all of you.
Una vez más,
One more time.
presento otra vez.
I'm here again.
Y le doy las gracias a la señora Rebeca, a la señora María,
And I'm very thankful to Rebecca
Por haber
and
estado.
Maria for being present
en la última junta que tuvimos.
in our last meeting.
Y en la misma situación estamos de que esperando una respuesta.
And we're still waiting for a
Y,
response.
He estado hablando con el señor Cris, sí me responde.
I have spoken with Mr. Chris, and he does respond.
Y lo único que me dice de que, pues que ahorita no hay nada de
But he
bajo
tells
recurso,
me there's nothing of low income,
que me esperen 1 o 2 semanas más a ver qué es lo que va a pasar.
that I should wait for a week or two to see what happens.
Y la verdad que sí me preocupa porque ya falta poquito ya tiempo que nos dieron para salirnos.
And honestly, time is on top, and, we don't have time to leave.
Pero esperemos de que, pues en realidad sí nos ayude a reubicarnos.
Let's hope that he will help us relocate.
Y es todo lo que quería decir y muchísimas gracias por escucharnos.
And that's all I wanted to say, and thank you so much for listening to me.
Gracias y es todo. Buenas
Thank
noches.
you, and
Thank
good
you,
evening.
Irma.
Gracias, Irma.
I'm writing a note on your speaker slip so that when Sylvia reaches out to Chris, that she makes a note of that.
Para que también cuando Silvia escriba, lo tenga disponible.
Okay, next up is Maricela Castaneda.
Muy buenas noches.
Good evening.
Mi nombre es Maricela Castañeda.
My name is Maricela Castañeda.
La razón el por qué me encuentro en esta noche
The reason why I'm present tonight
es porque estoy muy preocupada porque pasó algo el día de hoy que no me lo esperaba.
is because something happened today, something that was totally unexpected.
Es referente con el señor Grace.
This is in regards of Mr. Chris.
Esa es mi segunda junta que tuve con él.
This was my second appointment with him.
La primera que tuve fue con Cintia
The first one that I had was with Cynthia.
y esta vez era la junta con él a las 2:30 en su oficina.
And my meeting today was supposed to be at 2:30 at his office.
Cuando yo llego a la oficina resulta que el señor Chris no estaba y estaba la señora Cintia y ella me pidió que ella podía atenderme.
And when I got there, I found out that Chris was not there. Cynthia was there, and she said that she could help me out.
Entonces le pedí a la señorita que preferiría yo hacer mi cita con Chris porque ya la última vez ya había hablado con ella.
So I told her that I would rather have my meeting with Chris, since I had a meeting with her as well.
Me dijo, ¿cuál es la diferencia si los dos hacemos el mismo trabajo? Le digo, lo siento, no es lo mismo.
And she said, well, there's no difference. We both do the same job. And I said, well, it's not the same.
Le dije que necesitaba tocar unos puntos muy importantes con Chris referente a la de poderme remover porque no tenía ninguna notificación referente de la última junta que tuve con ella.
I told her that I was very concerned that I had very important points to make because I hadn't had any communication from the last time that I met with him.
Entonces ella me pidió, no hay problema, te puedo dar el número de Chris. Le digo, no te preocupes, ya lo tengo. Yo voy a marcarle y así fue.
She would provide the number, the telephone number from Chris. I said I have it, and I would make the call.
Muchas gracias y yo le marco en estos momentos.
And thank you so much. I will be calling him in a few moments.
En menos de 5 minutos le marqué al señor Chris y me dijo él que no estaba en la oficina, pero que ahí estaba su asistente. Y le dije, lo siento, pero mi cita era contigo.
Less than 5 minutes after, I had a chance to talk to him, and he said he was not in the office, but that that Cynthia would be there to help me out.
Entonces él me dijo, bueno, pero ¿qué necesitas para lo mismo?
I had told him, he had told me that, asked me what I needed, and I had told him prior that I had made the appointment with him to be there at 2:30.
Necesito preguntarte qué ha pasado, si hay una reubicación, si hay algo para nosotros, porque a mí me preocupa en las condiciones que me encuentro. Soy mamá sola, tengo 5 hijos, los 3 más pequeños de 2, 4 y 6 añitos.
I asked him, what about the relocation? I am a single mom and I have 5 children. There's, ¿de cuántos años? I have a 2-year-old,
4,
a 4,
6,
6,
18
and 18,
y 20.
and 20.
Entonces, me preocupo en estos momentos
So I'm concerned about these moments.
porque el papá nos dejó y no estoy trabajando.
The father left us and I'm not working.
Y a mí me preocupa que vayamos a dar a un hotel,
And I'm very concerned that we end up in a hotel.
estando con todos mis hijos dentro de ese lugar, sabiendo que hay tanta gente que entra y sale y que no sabemos quiénes son los que nos vayan.
Having children in a place like that, and having people that come and go and all that, and who knows who's going to be there.
Especialmente que los 3 pequeños sufren de ansiedad, entonces no pueden estar en un solo lugar.
Especially my 3 little ones, they suffer from anxiety, so they can't be, shut down in one place.
Y otra cosa que tocando otro.
Está
Sorry. Lo
It's
siento.
okay, it's okay.
Ok. Hay otra cosa que pasó, tocando un punto aparte de los niños, pasó algo esta tarde.
Something else that happened this afternoon besides the children.
Fui a unos apartamentos ventalizos.
¿De qué?
Ventalizos se llaman los
I went to
apartamentos.
the Ventalizos apartments today.
Fui y me dijeron ellos, si vienes a buscar unos apartamentos que estén disponibles, no tenemos nada, no vamos a, si vienes de National Core, nosotros no tenemos nada que ver con
And
ellos.
they told me that they didn't have anything available, and in fact, that if I came from National Court, they had nothing to do with them.
Nosotros no estamos dando aplicaciones porque recibimos una carta de la ciudad donde dijeron que nosotros no nos envuelvamos con National Core, que nosotros hagamos nuestro trabajo aparte y que no iban a estar dando las aplicaciones hasta después de mayo, a finales de mayo hasta junio.
We were also told that applications will be available until May or June, so that we got a letter from the city stating that at this point we couldn't put any applications in.
Que cuando una vez que terminen los apartamentos, los estrellas, que ellos van a llevar todas esas aplicaciones ahí y que más o menos como a finales de junio o julio nos van a estar dando esas aplicaciones para que las empecemos a llenar.
And so when the Las Estrellas is finished construction, they are going to give us those forms so that we can apply in between June and July.
Sería todo.
So I'm confused.
Entonces estoy un poco
There was a letter from the city saying what?
Hubo una carta de la ciudad diciendo
Que les dijeron, que les mandaron una notificación a ellos
¿quiénes
donde
son ellos?
a Ventalizos,
That they sent a notice to Ventalizos Apartments
que les dijeron que ellos les habían dejado saber que y que ellos hicieran su trabajo, pero que no tuvieran nada que ver con
informing
National
them
Core.
that they could do their job, but that they couldn't have anything to do with National Court.
The city said that
La ciudad dijo
that
eso.
Ventaliso
ciudad.
can't do it.
Que Ventalizo no puede hacer negocios.
Que no puede, exactamente, que nosotros no podemos, que no están aceptando aplicaciones, que no tienen vacantes, que no vamos a estar dando las aplicaciones y todas esas aplicaciones se van a ir a estrellas para
That they're
que
not receiving applications, accepting applications, and whatever application goes through is going to be sent to Las Estrellas.
correcto.
Okay, that's what Ventaliso said. I'm sorry. I thought you said a letter from the city. That's why I was confused. I'm
Eso es lo que
just
dijo
trying to piece it
Ventalizo,
all
no es
together.
ninguna carta de la ciudad.
No, Ventalizo, la manager de ahí, la manager me dijo, no podemos nosotros, si vienes a ver si tenemos apartamentos disponibles, déjame decirte que no tenemos ninguno disponible.
The lady there said that if there was anything available, that there was nothing available. And if anything would come up available, si fuera disponible.
Si estuvieran disponibles, no les podemos dar las aplicaciones porque todas esas aplicaciones se van a juntar con Estrella.
We cannot give you anything else, the applications are going to come through and they're going to go to Las Estrellas.
Todas esas aplicaciones se van a ir junto con Estrellas para que no estén todas como divididas, se van a ir en un
All
solo.
those are going to be packed and to go to Las Estrellas so they're not divided.
Okay, all right. That's just Ventaliso, though. So I guess, please, if Chris isn't there, at least work with Cynthia. They can't help you if Chris isn't there. You should still talk to whoever you need to talk to.
Necesitan hablar con la persona que esté ahí. Si es Cintia, hablen con Cintia.
La última vez que hablé con Cintia, no me dieron información referente a lo que, todo lo que le compartí. No me dejó saber, Chris, sabes que de esta manera te voy a ayudar.
The last time that I was there, all the things that I shared or anything, I never heard back through Chris, like saying, well, we're going to help you with this issue or this or that.
So I believe that Cynthia will help you. She's there. She was trying to meet with you and help you. So I beg you to please go back and see her and try to have her help you. Let her help you.
Entonces trate de hablar con ella y que ella le ayude.
La razón porque, como ya lo había dicho anteriormente, si tenemos que tocar un tema con Cintia, tenemos que esperar que Cintia espere la respuesta de Chris
What
y es más
happens
tiempo.
is that when we go to Cynthia, she has to wait for Chris to make the decisions. We can't do anything with Cynthia.
Okay, well, I haven't heard anything about that. So I know Sylvia has heard what has been said this evening, so she can follow up on things. So I'm going to also give your speaker slip to Mr. Skolick, and they will get your phone number so that Cynthia can follow up with you, okay?
What I have heard tonight from various residents is that Cynthia doesn't have authority, and it's Chris. They've been told that has authority. So can we get clarification as to why there's that discrepancy?
Yeah, that's what I had asked for, Councilmember. Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Nunez will be
I'm
following.
confused about that, too.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
gracias.
Okay, Salvador Gomez.
Buenas noches,
Good evening
todos los del consejo.
to all the council members.
Soy un residente de Villa Serena, mi nombre es Salvador Gómez.
I'm Salvador Gomez, and I'm a resident of Villa Serena.
El propósito que estoy aquí de nuevo, esta es mi tercera vez que estoy acá,
This is the third time that I have come here
para expresar lo mismo de mis vecinos, que estamos en la misma preocupación porque pues el tiempo se los acorta y
to express the same thing with my neighbors because the time is running out.
pues estamos buscando por nuestras propias cuentas porque no se ve una noticia positiva para nosotros.
We are looking on our own because we don't see a positive answer coming through.
Y las noticias que hemos recibido no son alentadoras.
And the news that we have received are not so positive.
Yo por mis propios medios he buscado un lugar que se acomode a mi situación de 55 años.
I have tried to look for a place that would accommodate me in, the 55 and over age.
No es fácil porque es un proceso muy complicado para poder calificar porque se necesita un buen récord y yo he calificado, pero las ofertas se me han sido negadas.
It's not easy because the qualification system is quite difficult, and I have qualified, but at the same time, I don't get anything.
Entré en una oferta que fue aceptada y abrimos escrow.
I came into a good offer, and we opened escrow,
Pero esta semana se canceló el escrow.
but this week, my escrow was canceled.
Y he empezado otra vez a tratar en las mismas comunidades de 55 porque son las que están a mi alcance para hacer los pagos.
I have started all over again looking for the 55 and over because it's the most appropriate for me for being able to make my payments.
Ahorita hace como una media hora me llegó la notificación que una oferta que tenía fui aceptado nuevamente en diferente propiedad.
A few minutes ago, I received notice that I have been accepted in another property.
Estoy en espera de esta oferta, si me la aceptan, y si no soy aceptado en esta oferta que estoy haciendo, voy a volver a la misma condición que están mis vecinos.
If they accept me or not, and if I don't get accepted, then I'll be in the same situation as my neighbors.
El tiempo es el peor enemigo que tenemos ahorita porque el escrow cuando se abre da un promedio de 30 a 45 días.
Right now, time is our worst enemy because in an escrow, the closing is between 30 to 45 days.
Si en ese tiempo no se ha logrado conseguir que escrow cierre, no tengo vivienda.
If I don't get a chance to close escrow at due time, then I won't have a place to live.
Well, that's not what National Corps said. They did say that they would not let anyone become homeless, so I'm sure they would come up with some sort of interim solution.
Dijo que ustedes no iban a quedarse sin hogar, que ellos iban a solucionar esa situación.
Bueno, pues sigamos esperando
Well, I guess we continue waiting.
y veremos si eso es cumplido en el tiempo que tenemos, que son 50 días.
We will see if they come through because, we have basically 50 days.
Well, I would suggest that you go and talk to Cynthia first thing in the morning, or first thing tomorrow, as soon as she's available, or Chris, or whoever's there.
O Chris, o la persona que esté ahí.
Definitivamente es lo que tengo que hacer porque tengo que informar cómo va el proceso, si el proceso procede o se es cancelado en esta
I
situación.
definitely have to do that because I don't know, if the process goes through, if it gets canceled, or what the situation will be.
Y pues en espera que se solucione. Yo por mi parte estoy haciendo mi parte.
I'm hopeful that this comes to a solution. I am doing my part. I'm definitely doing my part.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So, just
Suena
just
como
go
que
back
usted está haciendo
and
su parte.
it sounds like you've got
Regrese,
another place lined up.
Y lo bueno es que parece que encontró otro lugar.
Sí, está ahorita firmé el contrato de oferta y si es aprobado, pues entramos a escrow otra vez.
Yes, I just signed the offer, and hopefully I'll go back into escrow again.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Es todo.
Fantastic.
Muchas
Thank you.
gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. ¿Quién más?
Okay.
¿Nadie más?
All right, that's it, thank you. All right, done with oral communications. Let's go on to reports. Sandag, we had on Friday, it was a workshop, sort of team building retreat thing. And so I went to that. We talked about a lot of different things. One of the biggest takeaways was really, what did we all think that we could do better? And one of the things that I thought we could do better is figure out how to collaborate and not just not work together, but actually work together. So hopefully that will end up working. And we have a regular board meeting coming up in 2 weeks. And that's about it. Okay, moving on to League of California Cities. Who has that report this evening? Councilmember Sanella? Yes?
Yep, Councilwoman Nunez and I both participated. I'm the alternate, and so I filled in for Councilman Musgrove because he was not able to attend. There was a lot of things covered during the meeting. I'll kind of focus on what I kind of took away as being probably the most relevant, and that was a presentation by AT&T. And as you could imagine, not surprisingly, I think she quoted 89% of their users have gotten rid of their landlines. And so as a result, they're looking at ways to perhaps in the future, kind of do away with landlines altogether. And they're going to start, it was a little startling at first, because they're going to start kind of more in the rural areas, which I thought was interesting. And they kind of were talking a little bit about out, as it pertains to our area, out towards northern Twin Oaks and such out in the county. But it's, as the presentation went on, it became evident that none of this is happening very quickly. So this was just kind of an early update as to the direction that AT&T is looking at. And so there's no reason for concern at this point if you are a landline user. But I think as we go into the next decade or two, I think it's safe to say that landlines are probably going to go by the wayside. So, which again is not probably too surprising. Then there was a presentation, an update from Sacramento with dozens of bills, and I won't go through all of them, but there was a number of bills that were going to address homelessness and just about a little bit of everything. So Sacramento is very busy. And Maria, I don't know if you have anything, if any of those bills, moved you, but there was a lot of them.
There's a lot, there's a
Yeah.
lot. The only thing that I did want to add is that it's next week, right, Councilmember Musgrove, that we're headed to the policy committee meetings, so those will take place in person. And I think by then, we'll probably have a clearer idea of what positions the league is taking on some of these once the policy committee meets and reviews. So I know I'll be going up there. I don't remember which day I have, if it's Thursday or Friday. I think it might be Friday for me.
I have Thursday for taxation and revenue, exciting. And then Councilmember Robinson from Oceanside is going to cover the public safety on Friday, but I'll get his briefing information and bring it back to our next
You
meeting.
didn't want to stay up there both days?
It's a 2-hour each way for a 4-hour meeting. So the answer to that's no.
Okay, oops. All right, North County Transit District.
We meet next week.
Okay. North County Dispatch, Joint Powers.
Thank you. We did meet on February the 28th, and really the two main items that we had, we did receive the fiscal year 22 to 23 annual financial report, the audited financial report, and we had a presentation, and everything looks good. So I think that was really exciting to hear that I think that passed with flying colors. And the other part of the agenda was really, we were presented with the preliminary fiscal 24 to 25 budget. It's the preliminary stages. So I think the chiefs are scheduled to meet with the finance committee and to continue to finalize the budget. We're expected to come back to our meeting in May.
Okay. Clean Energy Alliance.
Thank you, Mayor. It was our first meeting with our new CEO, and we did get a fairly in-depth presentation on where we are financially. We are going to be getting an extended line of credit from JP Morgan, keeping our credit rating as high as possible, and really it has to do with time of year when this particular time of the year, all the different cities around the county and around the state really use less electricity. So for the CCAs that are electricity only, they always see a dip in their revenue, so the line of credit carries that through. But we are then picking up Oceanside and Vista starting in April with their monies coming in as the newest member agencies. And we will be able to pay off that line of credit very shortly and anticipating remaining in the black from that point on moving forward. And we received a regulatory update from Keys and Fox, which is a law firm that handles that side of the house for us, just where we are with some of the current legislation and opportunities with grants specifically.
Okay. City Council business visits. Did we have any? No. Okay. San Marcos Creek. What? We have it tomorrow. One tomorrow? Okay. San Marcos Creek project update, City Manager.
Yes, the team's been working on several closeout items. Irrigation is installed, however, the consistency of the rain has not necessitated that we utilize it yet. However, the rain is causing the weeds to really take off, which is becoming an issue because they're starting to overtake some of the plantings that we need to take hold. So they're fighting a little battle on that. The signals continue to be on flash. The contractor is very actively trying to solve this issue. The issue is around the loops that detect the vehicles, and of course it was poured in part of the bridge deck. So Isaac was explaining that the traditional way to find a loop is to energize it with electricity. Well, the minute you do that on a deck, the rebar for the entire bridge lights up. So they're hunting and pecking to try to solve that issue, because until that issue is solved, we're not going to have the ideal signal timing that we're looking for. So he has back of mind solutions that if we can't get this resolved imminently, there are other solutions that we can pursue. As I think council knows, on April 5th, we're holding a Rain or Shine event to celebrate the work that has been done with all dignitaries that helped to make the project possible. So generations of council members, contributors will be invited to that event. And then on April 7th, we'll be holding tours for the public in conjunction with the Spring Fling event. And during the tour, city staff will be educating the public on the project, getting them a sneak peek of the park as we finalize and establish the planting in preparation for park opening.
Okay. Well, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Oh, wait, any council commentary from anyone? Okay, with that, this meeting's adjourned.